Theodore Miller is a typical nobody loser, as it's plenty. He is the protagonist of this story. As the story begins, we see our protagonist, we call him Theo from now on, standing in Vince's laboratory. It is here that Theo receives his scolding from Vince. Vince emphasizes that, upon reviewing Theo's written test results, there is nothing to be disappointed about. The 3 points that have been subtracted from his test aren't even considered a big deal, given how he is in a league of his own when it comes to written exams. However, this is the Magic Academy where magic reigns supreme. Even with Theo's outstanding knowledge, if he is unable to produce passable results during the practical test, he will have difficulty graduating. Vince asks Theo about his current circle. Circles are a leveling system for magicians, with first being the lowest and ninth being the highest. However, achieving the ninth circle is a tale from ancient times. Theo says that he is barely at a second circle. Vince is disappointed that, despite attending the academy for 5 years, Theo hasn't mastered the second circle. This comment implies that Theo may be inadequate as a magician. Theo is already used to such remarks. He already knows everyone around him is mocking him for his lack of aptitude for magic. It seems that our protagonist has to possess an incredible amount of willpower to persevere for so long despite all the pity and mockery. Vince gives Theo an envelope. He says he is sorry for having to put our protagonist through this every single year, but this will be the last time. Vince seems to care about Theo in his own way. However, Theo thinks that Vince was never on his side. After the bitter talk, Theo leaves the room. Outside the lab, we see him clinging to the envelope as other students laugh at him behind his back, seemingly knowing what the letter implies. They appear pleased with the fact that Theo is just a loser in their eyes, and they stand above him. As he passes them by, he can feel and hear all the pity, mockery, fake sympathy, ridicule, contempt, and insults. All of them are relieved that he may finally be gone for good. While walking forward, Theo thinks to himself that he has walked this path for so long that he can't stop now, realizing that the starting point is already so far. He decides to fight his destiny no matter what and create a future for himself despite all the odds being stacked against him. The scene shifts to the library, a place where hardly anybody visits. In the Magic Academy, everybody finds knowledge to be useless, and magic aptitude and power are the only things that matter to them. Here, we find our protagonist, who is a regular in this library. He picks up a few books he is already familiar with. He has read them 1,000 times already, making it almost pointless to read them again since he already memorized them. But reading them gives him a sense of ease and peace in those hard times. During his regular routine, something particular catches his attention. It's a book he has never seen before, and since he knows the library by heart, it is an irregular sight to him. He approaches the book that is sticking out from the shelf. Right after he lays his finger on the book, it transforms into an unknown creature. The creature proceeds to swallow Theo whole. All we hear is a burst of ominous laughter, and we see our protagonist on the floor, seemingly unaffected by what just transpired. Unexpectedly, Theo hears a voice calling him and asking if he hears him. Theo thinks that he is losing it. The voice points him to look at his left hand. He does as the voice says. By doing so, he reveals a mysterious entity that has attached itself to him. The creature laughs and says that it seems he will survive. Theo, after witnessing this bizarre occurrence, screams in shock and terror. The creature explains and points out to Theo that it's too early to be surprised. As Theo tries to grasp what has just happened, the creature suddenly extends its tongue towards the pile of books that Theo has been reading previously and begins to eat them. Theo, in a desperate attempt to stop the creature, screams at it to stop and tries to pull the creature away from the books. As he does so, he stumbles and hits his head. At that moment, he felt a sensation that he tried to feel so many times, but just now the voice told him to stretch his hand. Finally, the feeling he has been yearning for so long has been subdued. As he stretches his hand, a lightning bolt comes out. Theo is in disbelief at what has happened. A notification pops up stating that the second circle lightning bolt has been acquired. The grimoire has awakened from a long slumber. It's extremely hungry. To satisfy its hunger, you must feed it books just like you did now. You have 10 minutes to ingest 4 more books. Startled by the abrupt voice he heard, Theo inquires about the message notification and its significance. He goes on to affirm that this cannot be a mere dream, as the pain in his arm is too real. The lightning bolt spell he had just cast was beyond his capabilities, for he had never before possessed any proficiency in magic. Even if he managed to use the spell, should it be so powerful as to know of a bookshelf? Theo realizes that with his hand that eats books, he finally has a chance. He quickly regains his composure and thinks about what the voice said to him. Coming to the conclusion that if he eats more books he will acquire skills from them, Theo asks the creature on his left hand about its name. The creature retorts that it will disclose this information to Theo provided he supplies it with more books. Should Theo fail to comply, he will face the dire consequence of being devoured by the creature. Theo answers that he will feed it as many books as it wants. As he fed the creature more books, he began to obtain more information from the mysterious voice. We learn that the creature is an ancient grimoire from the past. So far from the past that it has been already forgotten. The creature eats books and grows in power. The powers of the eaten objects is transferred to the user. If the user fails to feed the grimoire, he will be eaten by it. Theo says that he hears the general outline of the books in his head, and after that, he can remember the whole content of that book. The process takes some time to digest the books. Also, if the book quality is bad or too difficult for Theo to understand, then he will only gain a small benefit, if any at all. The notification pops up and the voice says, "The energy of the 4 elements digested, 3 more books needed." This notification signifies the completion of the digestion process. Once Theo has digested the books, he will be able to utilize the acquired abilities. Theo started to devour the books until sundown, acquiring all the magic he wasn't able to before. He ingested the following: Basic Magic Circle Drawing, Applied Defense Magic, Basic Fire Bolt, Application and Comprehension of Elements, Advanced Lightning Bolt, Revelation. Consuming such a multitude of books in one go inflicts unimaginable pain, causing Theo to come close to losing consciousness. Grimoire's hunger has been satisfied and the magic contained within the books has been absorbed into the body. For 5 years, Theo was unable to sense the magic that now surges abundantly within his heart. The grimoire is a picky eater. The grimoire said that the books were terrible, but he is full now. Theo asks the creature again about his name. The grimoire tells Theo that it's the only thing he wants to know, telling him to not act like he has no greed. The grimoire says to call him Gluttony. Theo asks Gluttony if he can give him an answer. There were still questions on Theo's mind. All he knows till this point is that Gluttony is unstable, and in order to stabilize him he needs to be fed hundreds of books. It feels like Gluttony is a school assignment he needs to complete. When Gluttony is full, he falls asleep. Before it drifts into slumber with a yawn, the voice assures that Gluttony will respond to any question posed by the host, but only once. Given that Gluttony is an ancient grimoire, it likely has lived for a long time. It cannot be a falsehood that it will answer any of Theo's questions, albeit just once. "Why are you hesitating?" Gluttony questioned. "If you had a question, you should ask now, before I fell asleep," Gluttony urges, noticing the sweat on Theo's face. With not much time available to ask a question, Theo contemplated his options. After some thought, he decided to begin with the most crucial question. He asked Gluttony about his identity. Gluttony spoke, expressing willingness to share, but questioned whether the Theo's intelligence, which they deemed narrow and superficial, could truly comprehend their words. Theo looked angrily at Gluttony. Gluttony finds Theo's behavior quite foolish. "Well, in that case," Gluttony decided, "I'll show some consideration, taking into account your level of intelligence. I'll provide a visual." Suddenly the room's atmosphere changes. A crack appears, from which tentacles emerge and grabbing Theo. A creature appears, coming closer towards Theo's head, proceeding to attach itself to his forehead. Suddenly the vision disappears and Theo falls on the ground. Gluttony laughingly explains that this is his limit. Assuming this answered his question, Gluttony stated he would see him next time. He still had a mountain of questions he wanted to ask. But the voice provided him with a brief explanation of all the information. First, Gluttony's form remains incomplete, and the voice serves as a guide that coexists with Gluttony. Second, Gluttony awakens once a day to satiate its hunger. After feeding, it responds to one question. Third, Gluttony comprehends the power held by its food and can discern more accurately than any other form of magic. Lastly, Gluttony extracts the essence of what it consumes and then delivers the effects in proportion to the user's comprehension. After enduring years of mockery, Theo has at last been bestowed with the ability to transform his life. Navigating the challenges of being considered a subpar student with insufficient perceived talent for magic has been a struggle for Theo, but that chapter is now firmly in the past. At this moment he decides to eat all the books he can. The scene shifts to the bustling school corridors, where students dash about, their laughter filling the air. In a classroom there stands Professor Vince with another man. They both reminisce about the past and how nice it was to have been young and free from the aches and pains of old age. The professor asks Vince if he will be staying at school during the following school break. Vince answers that due to the investment in his work, he has no other option but to stay. The professors ask if it is due to that student. That question seems to upset Vince. Suddenly a man comes through the door, asking for Professor Vince. He has been looking for him for a long time. Vince is displeased to see the man. The chubby man asks Vince about Theodore Miller, and inquires further about why is he not on the dropout list for this year. Vince, upset about the question, thinks to himself, "That Theo is the son of a ruined aristocrat. He is always saying that he can't do magic and is just working on his theory. But what's the point of having all that theory in your head if you can't put it into practice? Every class he asks pointless questions, giving me a headache. If you're aware you don't have a natural talent, why put in all this effort?" He ought to recognize his limitations and concentrate on learning his role. After contemplating Theo's situation, he answers the man. He said that he made Theo stay back a grade because he wanted to study more, and as a teacher, it is his job to guide and teach his students. Doing anything less than that would be an embarrassment to any professor. The chubby professor, being displeased by the answers, backs off, saying that he only asks cause he is organizing a list of personnel. He hastily retreats from the conversation, saying that he is hurry and has to go back to his work. Vince thinks to himself that Chubby is also a professor, yet he doesn't care about Theo. But Vince still believes in Theo. In the library, Theo is gathering various books, ready to devour them all. Selecting a good book has become notably simpler since gluttony leveled up. From the general overview to the worth and capabilities of the book, information just comes to Theo. Learning magic comes effortlessly without any issues. There's a notable contrast in the rating of each book and the abilities they possess. Moreover, Theo now even possesses the skills necessary to excel in black magic. Even high-level books have become easier to understand. Gluttony has woken up asking to be fed 3 books. His hunger is completely random. One time the voice says what Gluttony wants to eat, the other time Gluttony himself says what he wants. The main challenge lies in Gluttony's selective taste. He finds it hard to be content with any book. However, indulging him isn't entirely detrimental, as Theo does acquire valuable skills and knowledge from the experience. Theo has already tried to feed 5 books to Gluttony, but he rejects them all. Gluttony is very disappointed in the books and asks for more delicious ones. Gluttony gestures towards the red book on the table, expressing a desire to devour its contents. Said book has the Belantes family seal of publication. After appraisal, Theo concludes that the book is original. The book title is The Study of Ballistic Magic, written by Alfred Belantes. Alfred Belantes, before becoming a prince, he was renowned as the preeminent magician, earning him the title of the Master of Magical Combat. Even at the age of 80, he retained the ability to perform extraordinary feats of magic. His popularity stemmed from his unique approach to wielding magic. He used the spell, Magic Missile, as his primary form of magic. It's a first circle magic, but despite that fact, he still climbs up the ranks. Theo ponders why such a book is withering away in such a place. The value of this book is out of the question, but devouring such a book may result in being expelled. He needs to make a quick decision. He acts quickly, letting Gluttony devour the book. Gluttony, after eating the book, says that is worthy of synchro. Theo, still in confusion, gets suddenly transported into the book's story. Successfully synchronizing with the author's memories, Theo finds himself reliving a battle from 45 years ago. He wondered what exactly was happening. Was he involved in this scene? He found it impossible to move as he wanted, as if he were merely an observer. He speculated that this must be the synchros that was mentioned before. It seemed to be the ability to synchronize with someone's memories. If that were true, then he was viewing this from the perspective of Alfred Belmont. Vincent, the captain of the First Night Order, declared his intention to lead from the front. He pointed out that while the enemy had formidable troops, they all operated under a single leader's command. Vincent expressed a hope that Alfred would permit him to take the lead. Alfred considered this and then responded with assurance, stating that he would take charge instead. The fierce battle begins with each army marching forward. Amidst the chaos of war, valiant knights clash in a fierce battle, their armor stained with blood. Amidst the tension, Alfred, a fierce commander, stands tall, declaring the onset of war. He states, "I am the Prince of Belantes. I hold the position of commander in the Belantes army. Alfred Belantes stands before you. If you intend to take my head, step forth and announce your name." Alfred, surrounded by enemy knights, suddenly finds himself face to face with Count Jason's eldest son Richard. The enemy taunts Alfred, but before he can finish his sentence, Alfred swiftly fires a shot, creating a hole in the enemy's body. The rest of the knights charge at Alfred, but he swiftly takes them down with precise shots, leaving behind a battlefield stained with blood. Theo is shocked. The spell surpasses everything he has ever learned. It was evident that this spell had undergone countless variations from its basic form, resulting in a high power output capable of penetrating through the enemy. It was the simplest yet most perfect lethal move. In Alfred's stronghold, a man is dragged before him. Man is screaming, shouting to let him go. Desperation compelled him to shout for release, to beg for his freedom. Alfred was displeased by the man's appearance. He blasts his head off. He directed the guards to feed the body to the dogs, for in his eyes, this man was undeserving of any final respect. And as for the one who is watching, Alfred looks at Theo. He isn't sure why Theo has come, but he decides to allow him to return. This wasn't the location where he could discover the answer he sought. It was something they needed to find on their own, within their own reality. The synchro has come to an end. As Theo returns, he collapses onto the ground, reflecting on the fact that he must seek the answers on his own. In this strange, uncomfortable situation, there's more than meets the eye. But one thing's for sure, Theo now understands exactly how Prince Alfred used the magic missile. Thanks to the synchronization of the memories, it feels like Theo can do it just like Alfred did. Now, all that knowledge is tucked away inside him, like a secret treasure waiting to be used. But one question remains: how did his output increase by so much? Theo, once considered a dunce at the academy, experiences a profound transformation. He attempts to replicate the magic of the war hero, Alfred Belantes, and despite the pain and physical strain, he succeeds in producing a flash of light. This magic missile, although weaker than Alfred's, is still 2 to 3 times more powerful than conventional ones. Theo's success fills him with an unprecedented sense of joy and accomplishment. He has mastered a spell that no one else has, proving to himself that he is capable of great things. This newfound confidence fuels his determination to change his future. He turns his attention to gluttony, the grimoire that has been instrumental in his transformation. Today, it has consumed 2 books, one of which was Alfred's-style magic missile, and its achievements have exceeded Theo's expectations. He calls out to Gluttony, ready to ask a question. Theo asks about a way to increase his magic power. He is taken aback when Gluttony reveals that there are over 100 ways to increase magic power, far more than the 3 methods commonly known. However, Gluttony can only share one method with Theo. To ensure the method is suitable and achievable for him, Theo asks Gluttony to provide the most efficient method that he can use at his current level. Gluttony acknowledges this request, ready to share its wisdom once more. A hidden feature of Gluttony was then unlocked. As a grimoire that feeds on magic, Gluttony could absorb not just the essence, but also a portion of an item's abilities. Consuming items with magic power would increase Theodore's own magic power. This could even be done with cursed artifacts, and during Gluttony's sleep state. Theodore was surprised by this revelation. He realized that questioning Gluttony wasn't just about gaining knowledge, but also about unlocking more of its potential. However, finding items with magic power to feed Gluttony might be more challenging than he initially thought. Theodore realized that he couldn't feed Gluttony with items from the academy due to the risk of getting caught. The librarians might not notice a few missing books, but the caretakers in the classrooms would definitely notice missing items. They could easily trace it back to him. So, he decided to look outside the academy for items to feed Gluttony. After much thought, he came up with a solution but needed help to implement it. He thought of Professor Vince, who was always supportive of his talent. He believed that the professor wouldn't easily turn down his request for help. Theodore sought out Professor Vince the next day, knowing that he needed to act quickly. Despite being known as the Academy's longtime underachiever, Theodore had a good relationship with Professor Vince, who didn't judge him based on his background or abilities. Upon reaching Professor Vince's lab, Theodore knocked and was invited in. He greeted the professor and sat down when invited to do so. When asked about the purpose of his visit, Theodore revealed that he was there to apply for a permit to go outside. This surprised Professor Vince, who hadn't expected such a request. Nonetheless, Theodore handed over the documents he had prepared the night before, hoping to avoid any unnecessary questions about his reasons for wanting to leave. Theodore's request to go outside was unusual, as he typically spent his time in the library. Despite his confusion, Professor Vince signed the papers. He did express concern about the validity period, noting that students were usually free to leave the school until 3 in the afternoon during winter vacation. However, Theodore insisted that this wasn't enough for him. His goal was to obtain magic items, which would require more time for travel. Despite his curiosity, Professor Vince completed the paperwork and granted Theodore permission to leave the academy until dinner time. Theodore thanked Professor Vince, who dismissed it as a minor matter. However, Vince had something else he wanted to discuss with Theodore. He pulled out an envelope from a drawer and placed it on his desk, waiting for Theodore's response before deciding whether to hand it over. Theodore remembered the conversation he had with Professor Vince about becoming a magic scholar. This was a path for those who studied magic theoretically rather than practically, and Theodore's high intelligence made him a good fit. However, despite Professor Vince's disappointment, Theodore declined the offer, expressing his desire to become a magician instead. Professor Vince respected Theodore's decision and told him that he could always change his mind. After their conversation, Theodore left the room, leaving behind a heavy silence. Professor Vince noticed the spark in Theodore's eyes and felt optimistic, despite his initial skepticism. He found this development intriguing. The next day, Theodore left the academy for the first time in years. The city of Bergen, with its magic-infused streets and facilities, was familiar yet different. Magic items and artifacts were more common here than in other cities, making it a bustling hub for trade. However, Theodore wasn't interested in the artifact stores in the city center. His budget was limited, so he headed to the outskirts to find a black market trader dealing in genuine, defective, and cursed artifacts. These items were useless to ordinary people but not to Theodore. He had gluttony, a grimoire that could consume anything magical, making even cursed items valuable to him. In the outskirts of Bergen City, where the buildings shrink and the roads lose their shine, a sense of nostalgia washes over Theo. The unchanged scenery, with its worn-out signs and beggars in dark alleys, takes him back to his second-grade days. Back then, he was a promising magician, admired by noble children. One such acquaintance led him to a black market trader in this area. However, those so-called friends abandoned him when his shortcomings came to light. Their friendship was with the excellent magician, not with Theodore Miller. Despite their betrayal, Theo remembers the path to the black market. He finds himself standing before a shabby shack that barely announces its existence. Uncleaned windows and creaky stairs add to its decrepit charm. An open sign on the door is the only invitation inside. With a sigh, Theo turns the doorknob and steps into a world resembling a general store filled with unpriced items of unknown purpose. This is the black market, where prices are not fixed but negotiated. Black market traders, skilled in the art of persuasion, can easily lighten the pockets of the unsuspecting. Their knack for selling cheap items at inflated prices makes them a force to be reckoned with. As Theo steps into this world, he braces himself for the encounter. A cheerful voice greets him from the back of the store. The vendor invites Theo to browse, stating that she won't provide any explanations about the items. This is a common practice among black market traders to avoid losing sales due to defective or cursed goods. The cost of cleansing cursed goods often exceeds their selling price. Theo begins his exploration, starting with a dagger displayed in a corner. His first task is to determine whether or not his abilities will be compromised. Theo utters the word, appraisal, and Gluttony's tongue licks the various items, revealing its secrets. A criminal steel sword made up of criminals from a forgotten kingdom, drachma saber with thorns that stick out from the hilt to make it look more intimidating, Arachne's eyes with traces of magic power. Excited by this discovery, Theo dives into the sea of items in the black market shop. Regardless of their value, Theo picks out items that could increase his magic power when consumed by gluttony. This black market shop, filled with seemingly useless items, turns out to be a golden hunting ground for Theo. Theo, a seemingly ordinary customer, astounded a black market trader with his uncanny knowledge of the defective items in the store. The trader initially scoffed at Theo's refusal to pay 2 gold for the items, but his amusement turned into intrigue as Theo detailed the flaws in each item. The trader realized that Theo might be an appraiser, a rare and highly valued individual capable of discerning the true value of items. Theo, armed with the power of gluttony that allowed him to mimic an appraiser's abilities, played along. The trader, now seeing Theo in a new light, closed his shop to engage in a more serious negotiation. Theo, maintaining his guise as an appraiser, prepared to negotiate and execute his plan to enhance his magical power. As the shop's sign flipped to closed, a palpable tension filled the air. The once bustling marketplace faded into a distant hum as the trader and Theo began their dance of negotiation. The trader, initially dismissive of Theo, now regarded him with a newfound respect and curiosity. Theo, on the other hand, remained calm and composed. He knew he had the upper hand in this negotiation and was ready to exploit it. His plan was set into motion, and he was ready to use this opportunity to increase his magic power. A black market trader is presented with an unusual deal by Theo. Theo offers to appraise products and pay for them using low-grade artifacts. Although this seems suspicious, the trader realizes that she stands to gain an enormous profit even if some items are defective. She considers the proposal carefully before agreeing to it. The black market trader hesitates to accept Theo's proposal because she doesn't understand the potential benefits. She is wary of accepting a one-sided deal and wonders if there is something she's missing. Despite this, she knows that profit is important in the world of black market trading, and she doesn't want to miss an opportunity. Theo realizes that the trader is hesitant and comes up with an idea to instill trust in the black market trader. Theo proposes using a Gia scroll, a magical item that enforces contracts, to ensure trust between them. Canis, the black market trader, is initially surprised but agrees when she realizes the benefits of such an arrangement. Canis carefully drafts the contract on the Gia scroll, adding clauses to protect herself. Theo insists on a confidentiality clause, which Canis accepts. The deal is sealed with the magical scroll, preventing any information from leaking out. They finalize their deal with blood thumbprints on the Gia scroll, which then activates and becomes a secret due to the confidentiality clause. With the deal established, Theo is ready to go back to the academy with the items he have purchased. He decides to take all of the items into his backpack and reviews Canis' proposal for a horse carriage. As the sun sets over the mountain ranges, Jason, a guard at the academy's main gate, is ready to end his shift. He's bored due to the lack of people around during the winter vacation. His boredom is briefly interrupted by the arrival of Theo, who has been running to make it back before curfew. Theo has just returned from a successful negotiation with a black market trader. He has a backpack full of items to appraise, which he hopes will increase his magic power. After crossing the academy threshold, Theo heads straight to his dorm room, skipping dinner. In his room, Theo empties his backpack, revealing various items of different sizes and shapes. Despite their worn-out appearance, these artifacts contain magic power. He's content with his haul and looks forward to increasing his magic power. He decides to feed one of the artifacts, a necklace, to Gluttony. As Gluttony consumes the necklace, Theo feels a slight increase in his magic power and proficiency. Unlike consuming magic books, which felt like magic was being burned into his body, consuming artifacts feels like being taught how to handle the magic. Encouraged by this difference, Theo feeds Gluttony more artifacts in quick succession. As each artifact is consumed, Theo's magic power increases slightly and his proficiency with various spells improves. Despite consuming 14 items in a row, Gluttony shows no signs of slowing down. Theo discovers that the digestion time for artifacts is cumulative, leading to a longer wait time. Despite this, he decides to wait for Gluttony to finish digesting the artifacts. As the artifacts are consumed, Theo feels his magic power increase significantly, causing his 2 existing magic circles to strain. In response, Theo focuses his mind and begins to form a third magic circle. His concentration, honed by his low sensitivity, allows him to shape the third circle. However, he falls short of completing it due to a lack of magic power. Despite this setback, Theo is optimistic about reaching the third circle of magic power before the end of winter vacation. He no longer worries about meeting the Academy's requirements and starts to wonder about his future potential. As winter vacation draws to a close, the Academy starts to buzz with activity again. Amidst this, Theo is seen running laps around the campus grounds, pushing his physical limits. He recalls Alfred's advice about the importance of physical strength for a magician and is motivated to train his body. Theo's training regimen includes running and strength exercises. Despite the physical strain, he perseveres, fueling his body with increased food intake. His efforts are rewarded with noticeable changes in his physique and an increase in his magic power. After a strenuous workout, Theo uses a simple spell, Clean, to cleanse himself. He notices that the spell seems more effective than before, hinting at his progression to the third circle of magic power. This realization brings him a sense of accomplishment and motivates him to continue his training. Theo's advancement to the third circle of magic power has significantly improved his magical abilities. He can now use more magic power to enhance the efficiency of his spells, making him a more formidable magician. As he warms his hands inside the Academy building, Theo hears footsteps approaching. Using his heightened sensory perception, a skill he acquired from Alfred's memories, he identifies 3 students approaching. These students, with their disregard for school rules evident in their attire, attempt to intimidate Theo with their loud remarks. However, Theo remains unfazed. Having endured far worse harassment in the past, mere words do not bother him. He continues on his way, undeterred by their presence. Sensing a first circle spell being cast, he counters with his own spell. Unaware of the spell, the students fall over as Theo calmly steps over the affected area. Theo doesn't look back at the fallen students, instead focusing on the upcoming semester. He's determined to put an end to the scorn and taunts he's endured over the past 3 years. With newfound confidence and power, he looks forward to starting his final year in the 3rd grade. Theodore Miller's reputation as the Academy's loser is well known among both existing students and incoming freshmen. Not a single person at the Academy believes Theo will graduate. This sentiment is shared by Professor, who teaches the 3rd grade's alchemy classes. Theo was in a tense relationship with his professor. Initially, Professor respected Theo's noble background despite his family's decline. However, an incident in an alchemy class 2 years ago changed everything. Theo had pointed out that she had quoted from a paper that had been withdrawn by the Magic Society. This criticism, coming from a baron and a student who had repeated a year, was too much for the proud her to bear. From that day on, she was constantly irritated by Theo and sought ways to expel him from the Academy. But Theo's conduct was flawless, and he lacked only practical results. So she decided to challenge him in class. In the current lesson, she taught the class about full moon bead, a complex formula that could turn into poison if not handled correctly. She then asked Theo to explain why it was difficult to combine. Despite the taunts from his classmates, Theo calmly explained that the full moon bead was challenging to make due to the high magic power of its ingredients, which required precise control. She then challenged Theo to combine a full moon bead, a complex formula that even a second circle magician would struggle with. She was certain that Theo would fail, thus providing a reason to expel him for wasting valuable ingredients. However, Theo, confident and unflustered, accepted the challenge and walked to the front of the class. To everyone's astonishment, he successfully combined the full moon bead. Professor was left speechless at the sight of the perfect full moon bead, something she himself couldn't create. Adding insult to injury, Theo pointed out an improvement to her formula, citing a paper published by the Magic Society the previous year. This left the professor in utter disbelief. The next day, news of Theo's achievement spread throughout the Academy. Skeptical professors tested Theo, and he continued to impress them with his newfound abilities. Theo's talent had grown exponentially over the winter break, and he was now able to cast most of the spells he had only studied before. His magic power had reached the middle of the 3rd circle, and he was on track to reach the 4th circle before the end of the 1st semester. Witnesses to Theo's transformation fell into 3 groups. The first group questioned why such a talented magician had ever been labeled a dunce. The second group accepted Theo's achievements as the result of his 5 years of study. They praised his excellence, and even approached him during breaks to ask questions. The third group, however, remained convinced that Theo was still a failure. They viewed his success with hostility, and plotted to bring him down during the upcoming battle magic class, where students would spar to assess their proficiency. These students saw this as an opportunity to challenge Theo, and restore what they believed was the natural order. They were confident in their abilities to defeat Theo, but only time would tell if their confidence was justified. Battle magic, a subject highly valued at the Academy, was taught by Vince, a distinguished war magician. He explained to the students that magicians were efficient killers and had a long history with warfare. This revelation shocked some students, while others were excited by the prospect of becoming war magicians. Vince explained that the Academy was originally a facility to train magicians for the battlefield. While graduates were no longer required to serve in the army, the combat magic course would give them a sense of real warfare. The first class involved a one-on-one spar to assess each student's proficiency. Vince outlined the rules of the spar, warning students against committing fouls and threatening expulsion for any malicious behavior. With the rules established, Vince selects the first participant to be Carter Garcia, and as for the second opponent, he chooses Theo. Vince tosses a coin to decide who attacked first. Garcia won the coin toss and launched a lightning bolt at Theo. The outcome of this unexpected matchup was eagerly anticipated by all. Theo deflected Garcia's lightning bolt with a magic shield, then retaliated with a fire bolt. He had modified the spell to focus all the fire arrows on one point, causing Garcia's shield to crack. In response, Garcia prepared a powerful fireball spell. Theo, realizing a shield wouldn't be enough to block the attack, began to construct a more efficient and optimized defense. Theo's pyramidal shield perfectly deflected Garcia's fireball, leaving only minor scorch marks. Theo then launched his own fireball, which was smaller but equally powerful due to his improvements to the formula. Garcia, in his confusion, attempted to block it with a shield, but the fireball shattered it and sent him flying back. The students were stunned as they witnessed the so-called dunce defeating a member of the prestigious Carter family. Theo's victory was a testament to the power of technique over raw power. The students were in disbelief as they watched Theo defeat Garcia, one of the top students in their year. Even Professor Vince was taken aback by Theo's advanced techniques, which were on par with an active war magician. However, Garcia refused to admit defeat. Driven by fear of his family's reaction to his loss, he challenged Theo to withstand one final spell. Despite the dangerous situation, Theo remained calm and observant, much like a seasoned war magician on the battlefield. Garcia began to recite a chant to amplify his spell, a technique that could drastically increase the power of high-level magic and potentially change the course of a battle. The final confrontation between the two students was about to reach its climax. Garcia, using a family artifact, managed to amplify his magic power to cast a fourth circle spell, Blaze Shell. Despite the imminent threat, Theo remained calm and prepared a defensive spell, Earth Dome, to counter Garcia's attack. As Garcia launched his Blaze Shell, confident of his victory, Theo calmly urged him to shoot. The classroom held its breath as the powerful Blaze Shell accelerated towards Theo. Theo's Earth Dome successfully withstood Garcia's Blaze Shell, leaving the students in awe. Garcia, unable to accept his defeat, was left in shock. Theo, on the other hand, casually cleaned his clothes and commented on the situation. Professor Vince, amused by the outcome, declared the spar over and quickly restored the training field to its original state. However, he called Garcia forward and punched him for using an artifact, which was a serious violation of school rules. Garcia now faced potential punishment, including repeating a year or even expulsion. Theodore, burdened with worry, made his way to Professor Vince's lab. Vince, his closest confidant at the academy, had likely noticed Theodore's unusual progress. Theodore, financially strapped and struggling with mana sensitivity, had always been honest with Vince. Now, he was faced with the challenge of concealing the existence of gluttony. Despite gluttony's claim of numerous ways to boost magic power, it had only revealed one to Theodore. In a world where only a handful of methods were known, and others often led to a decrease in magic power, Theodore found himself in a tight spot. As he stood before Vince's lab door, he couldn't think of an excuse. The 1-second circle dunce was now top of his class. This change was the result of Theodore confronting his problems head-on. Now, he faced another challenge. Theodore, determined not to flee, knocked on the door of Professor Vince's lab. As he entered, the familiar aroma of coffee greeted him. Vince, engrossed in a parchment, looked up at Theodore with an unreadable expression. Vince had just returned from a lengthy faculty meeting about disciplining Garcia Carter, a task complicated by Garcia's influential father, Viscount Carter. The academy was hesitant to punish Garcia and risk offending his father. Vince, frustrated with the indecisive professors, reaching inside his pocket. He then produced a pendant with a red jewel that radiated significant magic power. Theodore was awestruck by the high-quality artifact. He recognized the silver pendant, named Roaring Flames, as a superior artifact. It had been used by Garcia during their spar, explaining Garcia's sudden power surge. To Theodore's surprise, Vince tossed him the pendant, explaining it was an apology from Viscount Carter for Garcia's attack. Despite Theodore's disbelief, Vince assured him that if he wasn't satisfied, he could return the pendant and Garcia would be expelled. Theodore quickly agreed to keep the pendant, accepting the situation. Theodore was taken aback by his sudden fortune. The artifact, Roaring Flames, could potentially help Theodore reach the fourth circle before graduation. However, the peaceful moment was interrupted when Vince began to question Theodore. Vince had always recognized Theodore's potential, but he was puzzled by Theodore's sudden transformation. Despite his suspicions, Vince assured Theodore that he didn't believe he would resort to dishonest methods for such growth. Instead, Vince offered his help, wanting to guide Theodore as his teacher. Theodore realized he was at a crossroads. His decision to reveal or hide his secret would significantly impact his future. If he chose to keep it a secret, he could continue his current path and graduate as an elite student. But would that truly be the case? Theodore considered the risks of his current path. He had been secretly taking books from the library for gluttony to consume. If he had Vince's support, he wouldn't need to take such risks. But that wasn't the main issue. The real question was whether he should trust Vince or not. After a moment of silence, Theodore made his decision. He looked at Vince and said, Professor, could you take a look at my hand? This choice would shape his future. With these thoughts in mind, Theodore decided to reveal his secret to Vince. He asked Vince not to be surprised. Theo proceeded to wake up Gluttony. After he appeared from his slumber, Vince started to question reality. Theodore, after summoning Gluttony, watched as it consumed the precious artifact, roaring flames. The pendant, a high-grade magic stone, was a valuable item that could significantly increase magic power and affinity for fire magic when activated. As Gluttony consumed the pendant, Theodore noted that it was the first time an object's digestion had exceeded 1 hour. This suggested that stronger items would likely take longer to digest. Professor Vince, taken aback by the sight of Gluttony and its consumption of the pendant, asked for an explanation. Theo reassured him and began to explain the nature of gluttony and its ability to consume and digest magical items. Theodore's explanation about gluttony was quickly understood by Vince, who was not only a magician but also a genius scholar. Vince acknowledged the absurdity of the grimoire's ability to gain magic power and knowledge from consumed items, a concept modern magicians couldn't fathom. Vince, however, was not pleased that Theo had fed library books to Gluttony, but he understood that Theodore had done so out of necessity. Theo, with a worried look on his face, wanted to ask Vince a question. But before he could do so, Vince interrupted him, saying that he probably wanted to ask why is it that Vince is not interested in taking the grimoire for himself. Vince then explained to a surprised Theodore that grimoires choose their own masters and retaliating against them could be dangerous. Therefore, gluttony was of no use to Vince, and it was often better to study a grimoire by the owner's side, plus it seems to be impossible to transfer the grimoire to another user. Theodore was grateful for Vince's honesty and willingness to help. Vince, in turn, expressed his gratitude for telling him all of that. And to repay Theo's trust, Vince made an oath to keep Theo's secrets, binding himself with a spell that couldn't be cancelled once activated. This act of trust transformed their relationship, with Vince now seeing Theodore not just as a student, but as a fellow magician. Overwhelmed with emotion, Theodore thanked Vince and looked forward to their future partnership. This marked the first time that Theodore, once considered the Academy's longtime dunce, had made a true ally. Theodore's life at Bergen Academy continued as usual, with him attending classes and feeding Gluttony with library books. However, his newfound trust in Professor Vince had eased his worries about the consequences of his actions. Vince had offered to replace the consumed library books. Vince could provide Theodore with artifacts to boost his magic power. These artifacts were not only more affordable than conventional magic reagents but also more effective. Consuming these artifacts also expanded Theodore's repertoire of magic spells. This new arrangement had eliminated Theodore's need to visit the black market. Theodore's routine visit to Professor Vince's laboratory took an unexpected turn when he noticed the unusually clean state of the room. Vince revealed that he had received an invitation to the prestigious Melter Kingdom's annual magic contest, an event that attracted magicians from across the continent. The invitation allowed Vince to bring along an assistant, and he offered this opportunity to Theodore. Excited and eager, Theodore looked forward to the prospect of attending this renowned event. Vince was suggesting that Theodore could graduate early from Bergen Academy by winning a level 3 prize or higher at the annual magic contest, as per the Academy's rules. Vince believed that Theodore had already gained all he could from the Academy, and that participating in the contest could be a beneficial next step for him. This opportunity would not only allow Theodore to graduate early but also challenge him in ways that the Academy no longer could. It seems like an exciting new chapter is about to begin in Theodore's journey as a magician. In the esteemed Academy, Theo had become a topic of heated debate. Professor Vince, recognizing Theo's potential, warned him about the prideful professors who blamed others for their mistakes. One such professor, Bernard, seemed to harbor a growing resentment towards Theo. Vince advised Theo to keep his distance from such negativity and focus on his magical studies. He suggested that Theo could benefit from an early graduation and practice in the capital. Theo was unsure about his ability to win the contest as he was only a third circle master. Vince reassured him that his unique skills made him capable of competing with fourth circle magicians. He suggested Theo participate in the annual magic contest's battle magic division, which was open to students. Theo felt a spark of hope. Despite the gap between the third and fourth circles, his unique memorize ability, which he got after eating Garcia's heirloom, and battlefield experience gave him an edge. Vince believed that Theo could overcome his lack of magic power with his expert-level experience. Deciding to take on the challenge, Theo agreed to participate in the contest. Vince offered to help fill in any gaps in Theo's knowledge and opened a drawer from which he took a book. He explained that distinguishing between original and copied books was easy for him, but finding the book proved some way challenging. Vince explained to Theo that while duplication magic could create a physical copy of a book, it wouldn't retain the original's abilities and would leave a mark to distinguish it from the original. Vince then handed Theo a valuable book. This book was worth 50 gold, a price that reflected the greed of certain collectors. However, Vince had procured it because it was something Theo needed. Theo was allowed to appraise the book, which turned out to be an original work titled Introduction to Elemental Magic. The book was rated as rare and had the potential to increase Theo's proficiency in elemental magic and possibly open his elemental affinity. Theo was stunned by this gift, realizing that Vince was fulfilling their agreement of providing him with magic books or artifacts in exchange for answers to his questions. Vince promised 2 more rare-grade books soon. Vince then informed Theo that they would be departing for the capital in 3 days, and advised him to prepare for the journey. Theo eagerly anticipates feeding Gluttony the newly acquired book. Gluttony, who has been asleep, awakens with a voracious appetite. Gluttony's hunger has lessened recently, requiring fewer books for sustenance. This change concerns Theodore, as he wonders if he'll need to be more selective with the books he feeds Gluttony in the future. Despite his worries, Theodore proceeds with the feeding ritual. He feeds him the book. Introduction to Elemental Magic. As Gluttony devours the book, Theodore's understanding of elemental magic deepens. Suddenly, a connection is established with Mordal Hersium, the author of the book. This connection is different from the synchro he experienced before, leaving Theodore curious about its implications. However, before he can ponder further, a piercing sound invades his senses, and he feels as if his spirit is being pulled into an abyss. Despite his fear and resistance, Theodore's consciousness succumbs to the pull and descends into the abyss where Mordal Hersium awaits. Theodore finds himself in a serene, outdoor setting, lying on the ground. This sudden shift in surroundings leaves him startled. Unlike his previous experience with synchro, this time his body remains unchanged, suggesting a different phenomenon at play. As he contemplates these changes, an elderly man with a white beard and long hair appears. Theodore soon recognizes the man as Mordal Hersium, the greatest elementalist of the century. His presence is as grand as a mountain range, and his gaze as deep as the sea. After a brief introduction, Mordal asks Theo to look into his eyes. After a long observation, Mordal speaks. He tells Theodore that he lacks the fiery passion of fire, the carefree spirit of wind, and the adaptability of water. These traits make him incompatible with fire, wind, and water elementals. Theodore, who has always been disciplined and focused, feels a sense of rejection. However, Mordal isn't done. He acknowledges Theodore's perseverance, comparing it to a rock that withstands all elements, and eventually turns into sand. Mordal then summons an elemental that resonates with Theodore's steadfast nature. A bright light emanates, revealing a small figure made of clay. This figure, named Mitra, is an ancient and forgotten earth elemental. Mitra forms a bond with Theodore, signifying the start of a new contract. After the ritual, Mordal offers a bowl of food to Theo before leaving. As Theo tries to eat the food, he is immediately pulled back by an unknown force. Mordal says to himself that he is looking forward to what's to come. He says to Theo to come back to him again with the power on his left hand. As the connection with Mordal is terminated, Theodore returns to reality with a significant increase in his affinity to Earth and a new companion in Mitra. 3 days later, Theo found himself at the gates of Bergen Academy, laden with heavy luggage. Despite only packing essentials, the journey to capital was expected to take up to 10 days, and he needed to carry numerous books for Gluttony. As Theo contemplated taking a carriage, Professor Vince arrived. He asks Theo about the need to carry so much with him. Theo explains that he took only a few necessities and the rest is food for Gluttony. Vince knew that this would happen. He reveals a magic bag. This magical pouch could store items many times its size, providing a convenient solution for Theo's heavy baggage. With the luggage issue resolved, Vince urged Theo to start their journey due to time constraints. As they left the academy and headed towards the city, as they travel on the outskirts of the city, Theo asks Vince how they are going to reach Manaville in 9 days since it takes at least 1 month to get there. Vince reassured him that he had planned ahead. He explained that this period attracted a large number of people to Manaville, including tourists, magicians, and foreigners. Among them, merchants valued this time the most. Merchants from Bergen had created a new path through the mountain range to shorten the travel time. Despite the risks of monsters and bandits, this path was twice as fast as conventional routes. Merchants often hired mercenaries for protection and found the profits outweighed the costs. As Theo and Vince approached a large procession of wagons and mercenaries, they were greeted by Anna Farrell, a leader of Bergen's second largest merchant group. Anna greets Vince as if he was her husband, further confusing Theo. When Theo asks if they are married, Vince says to not ask. After Anna greets Vince, she asks him who his new companion is. Vince introduces Theo as his disciple and Anna as the only daughter of Gordon Farrell, the chief of second merchant group. Recognizing Vince's status as a fifth circle master, Miss Anna ensured they were treated as esteemed guests. They prepared a wagon for them with all the accommodation and even a shower for 2 people. Theo and Vince were treated with great respect, particularly by Miss Anna, a leading figure in the company. Their carriage was comfortable and well equipped, making the journey through the Naden mountain ranges quite pleasant. As they make themselves comfortable inside, Vince asks Theo to show him the elemental he had contracted with. As Theo summons Mitra, Vince takes out his notebook and gets ready. Vince was thrilled at the prospect of communicating with Mitra, but Theo explained that their communication was limited to simple expressions. Despite this, Vince found the interaction intriguing and advised Theo to frequently engage with Mitra as it would aid her growth. He noted down his observations about Mitra, finding the interaction more beneficial than years of research at Bergen Academy. Mitra seemed to be in high spirits, playfully exploring the carriage and interacting with Theo. He found her behavior endearing and spent his time engaging with her as they traveled towards Manhwa. In the midst of the journey, a powerful attack was launched at the wagons. The peaceful evening was shattered as a full-scale battle erupted. The front of the line was swarming with hobgoblins, their numbers too great to count. They were armed and ready for battle. The sudden battle noise woke up Theo. As he dresses quickly, he goes outside to check the situation. Outside, he saw an unexpected sight. Theo instructed Mitra to go underground. Mitra complied and began to share her underground view with Theo. As he sees the hobgoblin attacking, his position is compromised. And in a mere second, the hobgoblins were on to him. Theo, armed with his magic and determination, prepared to face the oncoming threat. However, as he plans his attack, an arrow narrowly missed him, hitting the wagon behind him. The arrow was shot with such force that it would have pierced through a shield and its bearer. As he dodges the attack, he falls right in front of the goblin army. To avoid the oncoming attacks, he uses Mitra's power and summons earth spikes, annihilating a horde of goblins in the process. Suddenly a figure emerged, a hobgoblin chief. A formidable opponent, known for leading hundreds, if not thousands, of hobgoblins. Theo realized that withdrawing from the battle would lead to his downfall. He gritted his teeth and prepared to fight. The hobgoblin chief launches a fierce attack towards Theo. Theo, with barely any time to react, cast an earth shield, barely escaping the attack. The hobgoblin chief, unfazed by Theos' defense, propels himself into the air, landing behind Theo. As the chief of the hobgoblins recovers his stance, he stands there menacingly, asking Theo if he is the same magician from earlier who was spying on them. Theo, still in shock from the previous attack, questions what is going on. Hobgoblin chief comments that Theo is getting weaker after just a few attacks. Unfazed by the comments, Theo begins to strategize an attack plan. He takes into account the strength, armor, and abilities of the hobgoblin chief. He understands that the task won't be easy, but he is confident in his ability to handle it. Theo summons gluttony and casts haste, accelerating his movements. He quickly found himself above the hobgoblin chief. Theo decided to try magic bullet, a spell that could penetrate the chief's defenses. After Theo's attack with the hobgoblin chief has dodged, he moves quickly behind Theo, kicking him into his head. Theo, taking the surprise attack, falls to the ground. As he starts to bleed from his head, he questions how it is that a hobgoblin can speak a human language and even use magic. The hobgoblin chief explains that it's all thanks to a slave that some bandits sold to him. It is common to sell war prisoners, and monsters are no exceptions. It was easy to get all the information from her since she has been tamed using brainwashing magic. And when the slave outlives their usefulness, they are thrown to the lesser hobgoblin. Theo asks if they killed the magician. The hobgoblin chief says to not worry about it, he soon will be in the same position. Theo finds a new resolve and decides to kill every last one of them. The hobgoblins begin to laugh at him. As they do so, Theo prepares a fierce attack. In a flash of light, he finds himself face to face with the hobgoblin chief, and with just one punch he obliterates the hobgoblin chief. After that, he begins to smash every single hobgoblin. The attacks are so brutal that even Vince, who is on the front lines, hears them. Vince asks Miss Anna about the situation on the front lines. Miss Anna says that thanks to Vince burning many of them, they will manage. As the situation on the front line is under control, Vince proceeds to check the rear. He commanded the remaining forces to follow him. Theo, after the carnage, can't even move his body. Yet despite that, he must find the strength to do so because another hobgoblin approaches him. The hobgoblin praises Theo for killing the war chief, and after seeing the fight, he commends Theo to fight him now. Before the hobgoblin can swing his sword, he is trapped by an earth spell. Theo, still regaining his strength, asks himself who is casting a spell. He looks back and sees Mitra, who is using all the power she has left to protect Theo. Theo, witnessing the resilient display of Mitra, decided to continue fighting. He launches an attack which barely phases the hobgoblin. The hobgoblin strikes Theo with a knee kick and then flips him over his back, smashing him into the ground. Theo, to avoid the impact, uses the levitation spell and manages to get himself out of the throw. He created some distance, but even that proves pointless since the hobgoblin collects weapons from the fallen goblins and throws them at Theo. Theo has no time to dodge. As Gluttony appears, he asks Theo if this is his limit. Theo answers with confidence, no. And he summons a triple-layer earth dome. The hobgoblin attacks Prices through the defensive spell, almost hitting Theo. As the dust settles, Theo manages to prepare another spell magic missile. With the last bit of his strength, he hits the hobgoblin with an headshot. Right after that, he fell to the ground. As if by sheer luck, the hobgoblin hasn't received any fatal wound. As Theo lays on the ground, the hobgoblin celebrates becoming the new chief. His celebration is short-lived as Vince appears behind him, burning him into the ground, leaving nothing but ashes. Vince picks up Theo, who is barely conscious. Theo says that he couldn't protect them because he was too weak. Vince reassures him that it's not his fault, and the problem is that the world has become chaotic. Vince shows Theo the battlefield and all the people that Theo manages to save. After this victory, the convoy traveled in peace. Mercenaries' weapons, stained with hobgoblin blood, deterred other monsters from attacking. Trolls that dared to attack were swiftly killed by the mercenaries, who valued troll blood as a potion ingredient. During this time, Miss Anna approaches their carriage. She expressed her gratitude to Vince and Theodore for their invaluable help during the raid. She even acknowledges Theo's feat of killing a hobgoblin chief, a formidable opponent even for fourth circle magicians. Miss Anna, being an astute merchant, recognized Theo's worth and offered him and Vince a token of his appreciation. Vince accepted the offer, and Miss Anna presented them with a box she had brought with her. Upon unlocking it, a strangely glowing crystal was revealed. Vince was puzzled by the crystal, having never seen anything like it in his studies. Miss Anna admitted she didn't know what it was either, but mentioned that the Magic Society had been seeking it. Despite its unknown nature, Vince and Theodore accepted the crystal as a token of gratitude. The convoy started moving again. Vince then revealed that the crystal was not a crystal at all, but a monster berry, a magical fruit produced by plants that absorb monster blood. These berries lure monsters with their scent and enhance the powers of any monster that consumes them. Vince speculated that the hobgoblins they encountered were attracted by the monster berry. He also suggested that a use for these berries might have been discovered recently. Vince's cryptic mention of a potential discovery was soon forgotten as the procession neared Manhwa, the capital of the Melter Kingdom. The sight of the city, with its white spires piercing the sky, left Theodore in awe. The city was a bustling hub of magic and a landscape that seemed straight out of a fairy tale. Vince, too, admired the city he had not seen in a long time. He donned a luxurious red robe, signifying his affiliation with the Red Magic Tower. He then informed Theodore that they would head to the Magic Society as soon as they entered the city. The magic contest attracted a large crowd to Manhwa, and Vince wanted to avoid any delays. He also wished to keep Theodore's existence hidden from the Red Magic Tower, which focused on fostering combat-specialized magicians and would undoubtedly be interested in Theodore's potential. Manhwa, the capital of the kingdom, was known for its stringent security checks during the magic contest. The tension among the tourists, travelers, and delegates lining up at the city's main gate was palpable. However, Vince and Theodore were able to bypass the long queue thanks to Vince's invitation to the magic contest. As they left Miss Anna behind and moved past the line, Vince's red robe drew attention from the crowd. The robe signified his affiliation with the Red Tower, one of the 4 towers surrounding the Magic Society in Manhwa. The sight of Vince's red robes commanded respect from everyone, including the guards at the main entrance's checkpoint who saluted them as they passed. Vince, being a superior of the Red Tower and a fifth circle magician, was treated with great respect at the city's checkpoint. His identity was confirmed. After answering a few questions to verify his identity, Vince and Theodore were allowed to pass through the gate without any further checks. This was the privilege granted to those who received an invitation to the magic contest. As they crossed the checkpoint and entered Manhwa, Theodore was once again reminded of the high status of his companion, Vince. And so, Theodore took his first steps into Manhwa capital, the heartland of magicians. Upon arrival, Vince and Theodore entered the Magic Society. They made their way to the reception desk in the center of the building. Vince presented his invitation and requested a registration form for Theodore to enter the pupil tournament. After providing all necessary personal information, the staff member asks if he is a fourth circle magician. The staff member at the Magic Society's reception desk was taken aback when Vince revealed that Theodore was a third circle magician. Given the risks involved in the pupil tournament, the staff member tried to dissuade them from proceeding with the application. However, both Vince and Theodore were resolute. Theodore's recent victory over a hobgoblin chief had bolstered his confidence, and he was ready to face the challenges of the tournament. Just as the staff member was about to reluctantly accept Theodore's application, a blue-robed magician from the Blue Magic Tower intervened. He informed Vince that the rules of the tournament had changed since last year, hinting at some potentially crucial information that could impact their decision to participate in the tournament. Lauren, an average individual from the Blue Tower, explains the rules of the pupil tournament to Theodore. Participants receive a token, which they must keep intact to demonstrate their superiority. The loser forfeits all tokens, and the last number of tokens owned becomes their official record. Vince, who left Manhwa 7 years ago, is unfamiliar with this method. Lauren explains that the change was due to an increase in participants. As more magicians joined the contest, their disciples also increased, leading to a shift in the tournament format. Despite some calling it barbaric, Lauren sees it as a positive change, allowing participants to challenge opponents without fear of losing in the first round due to bad luck. Vince and Lauren discussed the competition format, which was decided after a rational discussion. The format allows competent participants to rise quickly by defeating those with many tokens, while less skilled participants are eliminated early. Vince, however, identifies potential loopholes, such as targeting tired opponents or avoiding fights after gaining a moderate number of tokens. Lauren appreciates Vince's insights and explains that the competition takes place in the Pentarium, a multi-stadium venue with impressive durability. Despite Lauren's helpful explanation, Vince remains suspicious of his friendly demeanor. Lauren introduces his disciple, Mia Glucko, to Vince and Theodore. He explains that new rules have been implemented to speed up the competition, such as not allowing a participant with only one token to deny a challenge. Lauren challenges Theodore to a match with his disciple, revealing Lauren's plan to use the rules to his advantage. Despite Lauren's underhanded tactics, Theodore accepts the challenge, eager to finish quickly and enjoy a restaurant meal that Vince has arranged for the evening. Thus, Theodore's first fight in the tournament begins. The match between Theodore and Mia begins in the Pentarium. Each participant wears a crystal. The crystals serve as a measure of each participant's health, with the match ending when all 3 crystals are destroyed. With the introduction, the fight begins. Mia, confident in her superior magic power, launches the first attack with Icicle Bolt, a spell that forms deadly ice arrows. The arrows may not be as fast as those from an archer, but their icy nature can slow down an opponent and cause lethal wounds. The match is now in full swing, with both competitors ready to use their magic at any moment. Theodore responds to Mia's attack with Shock Wave, a spell that deflects the ice arrows. Seizing the initiative, Theodore uses Ignite and Grease magic to cause Mia to slip, then strikes her with Wind Cutter, breaking one of Mia's protective crystals. Despite the intensity of the match, Theodore remains calm and confident. Thinking that he should lower his power a little, Mia, angered by Theodore's tactics, retaliates but is caught off guard by Theodore's Lightning Bolt. As Mia attempts to cast a shield spell, the ground rises and swallows her foot, causing her to lose focus and get hit by the lightning. This results in another one of Mia's protective crystals being shattered, leaving her with just one remaining. If this last crystal is destroyed, Theodore will be declared the winner and will take all of Mia's tokens. Theodore, having experienced real fights, finds Mia's reliance on higher circle magic naive. He argues that the effectiveness of magic doesn't depend on its circle level, a sentiment Vince agrees with. Mia, however, feels insulted by the use of lower circle magic in what she considers an honorable duel. In her anger, Mia begins to cast a powerful 4th circle spell, Frozen Wave. But Theodore, unfazed, prepares to counter with a spell of his own. As Mia attacks, she is caught off guard when a stone spear, created by Theodore and Mitra, emerges from the ground and pierces his hip. The pain causes Mia to collapse, and her last protective crystal shatters, marking her defeat. After Mia is taken away, Theodore is congratulated on his victory and given Mia's 4 tokens. Vince approaches Theodore, explaining that his practical experience and battle intuition give him an advantage over students who have only trained in controlled environments. As they discuss the match, a robust old man with a white beard and hair approaches them. Despite his age, he has the physique of a warrior and carries a large staff. He greets Vince enthusiastically, though his rough manner causes Vince some discomfort. The old man expresses interest in meeting Theodore, Vince's disciple. Vince introduces them to each other. When Vince reveals the old man is Blundell Akaranx, the supreme mage of the Blue Tower, Theodore is taken aback, realizing he's in the presence of the most important person he's ever met in his life. The 4 towers protect the Melter Kingdom. The magicians are divided into 5 ranks. Newcomers rank Basic, ones with experience rank Average, ones who acquired merits and fame rank Superior, elders who are pioneers rank Prime, and lastly the wisest member rank Supreme. Theodore is taken aback by the realization that he's in the presence of Blundell Adruncus, the Supreme of the Blue Tower. This title signifies that Blundell is the top magician of the Blue Tower, a position of great prestige and importance. Despite his high status, Blundell maintains a friendly demeanor, encouraging Theodore to relax. However, Vince remains wary, suspecting that Blundell might have an ulterior motive for approaching them. Blundell's interest in Theodore is evident, as he even jests about wanting to take Theodore as his own disciple if he hadn't already found another student. Blundell reveals that he has a disciple who he believes will win this year's tournament. Just as Vince expresses his disbelief, an announcement declares the victory of a participant named Sylvia, who managed to win her match in just 24 seconds. This impressive feat draws the attention of everyone in the room. The victor, Sylvia, enters the room with a brilliant presence. She carries a large staff adorned with dozens of tokens. Recognizing her master, Blundell, she approaches him and is warmly greeted. It appears that Sylvia is the disciple Blundell was boasting about. Blundell, an old man, introduces Sylvia, a girl he's been teaching. Sylvia's emotionless voice and gaze are captivating, but it's her formidable magical strength that leaves Theodore, one of the onlookers, in awe. He realizes she's stronger than a formidable foe he's faced before. Blundell suggests a match between Theodore and Sylvia, but Theodore declines, aware of the potential damage to his reputation and his mentor Vince's. Sylvia loses interest in him. Blundell expresses disappointment and hopes for a future match before leaving with Sylvia. The tension eases once they leave, but Theodore and Vince remain on edge. Their planned restaurant visit is postponed. Theodore, despite recognizing Sylvia's superior magical talent, feels a strong desire to challenge her. His mentor, Vince, initially deems this choice unreasonable, but soon finds himself excited by the prospect of a thrilling match. The two share a moment of camaraderie, their hearts aligned in anticipation. Vince then decides to use his substantial savings from his years as a war magician to equip Theodore for the upcoming challenge, offering to buy him anything he needs from artifact stores and bookstores. Vince and Theodore leave the Magic Society building and head for the commercial district. The owner of an artifact store is initially disheartened by the lack of customers. However, Her spirit is lifted when Vince and Theo enter. Recognizing Vince's superior rank and the potential for a lucrative sale, Vince demands the best artifacts that are in stock. The owner rushes to bring an iron box filled with artifacts. Theodore is awestruck by the collection, knowing that absorbing all these artifacts. However, Vince isn't satisfied and requests for a B-rank artifact. Despite its tremendous price and rarity, the owner acknowledges that a superior magician of the Red Tower like Vince is indeed qualified to purchase it. The owner unveils a pair of silver gauntlets made of mithril alloy by dwarven craftsmen. These precious rated gauntlets have the ability to create an air current that deflects projectiles when wind magic is applied. Theodore is taken aback by their value, which is estimated to be around 180 gold. But they can have it at a discounted price of 144 gold. Vince, unfazed, promptly pays for the gauntlets with 3 golden bars. Vince and Theodore continue their shopping spree, purchasing artifacts from various stores in Manaville. The total cost of their acquisitions is enough to buy a manor house in the city. Back at their accommodation, Theodore feeds all the rare-grade artifacts to Gluttony. As Gluttony consumes items like the Necklace of Purity, Stone Fist Magic Bracelet, and Sticky Boots, Theodore's proficiency in various magic spells increases. The digestion process for all these artifacts will take about 1 hour and 58 minutes. Theodore, having consumed a multitude of artifacts, turns his attention to studying magic. He aims to not only accumulate enough magic power to reach the 4th circle, but also to learn and understand 4th circle magic. Vince joins him, sharing his extensive knowledge as a war magician. After 2 hours of intense study, Theodore experiences a surge in his magic power, marking his entry into the 4th circle. Vince congratulates him on this significant achievement, reminding him that this is just the beginning of his magical journey. The path ahead is challenging, with many magicians unable to progress beyond the 4th circle due to talent limitations, or the daunting wall beyond the 5th circle. The 9th circle, considered the pinnacle of magical achievement, has become a distant legend. Vince says that they should move on with the precious artifacts. Despite their value and rarity, Vince encourages Theodore to use them without hesitation for his preparation, assuring him that he will cover all costs. With Vince's reassurance, Theodore resolves to make full use of these artifacts. Theodore undergoes special training with Vince. Vince shares his extensive battlefield experience, emphasizing the versatility of water magic in offense, defense, and suppression. He explains that water exists in various forms as clouds in the sky, rivers on the ground, snow on mountain peaks, and fog in the morning. This ability to transition between solid, liquid, and gas states is the strength of water magic. However, its weakness lies in its lack of specialization. It's less powerful in attack than fire, weaker in defense than earth, and slower than wind. Thus, water magic is a medium attribute, balanced in various aspects. Theodore, with Vince's guidance, strategizes for his upcoming confrontation with Sylvia. Vince advises him to avoid close combat with Sylvia, revealing that her seemingly crude staff is actually a weapon she's mastered in the Eastern method of stick fighting. This revelation leaves Theodore preferring to face a magical attack rather than a physical one from Sylvia's staff. Despite the daunting prospect, Theodore's learning progresses well under Vince's mentorship. His understanding deepens not just from Vince's teachings, but also from his own insights and experiences. Theodore, after an intense training session with Vince, has shown remarkable progress. Despite the exhaustion, he's managed to stand his ground against Vince, a superior rank war magician of the Red Tower. His performance has not only met but exceeded Vince's expectations. Seeing Theodore's determination and growth, Vince gives him a perfect score, indicating his confidence in Theodore's abilities for the upcoming match with Sylvia. The grand finale of the pupil tournament was upon them. In the heart of Pantarium, a device displayed the rankings of magicians, based on the tokens they had collected. The audience was buzzing with anticipation and disbelief as they looked at the leaderboard. The top spot was held by Sylvia, a disciple of the renowned Blue Tower Master Blundell. She had shattered previous records, amassing an astonishing 95 tokens, almost double the usual count. This feat left the spectators in awe and admiration. In stark contrast, the second and third places were held by Pogani Woldest and Robert Dien, with 21 and 18 tokens respectively. The huge gap between first and second place led to murmurs among the crowd about whether others even had time to collect tokens. Sylvia, the silver-haired girl, sat quietly in a corner of the waiting room. If not for her muscular companion, she might have been swamped by those eager to converse with her. Blundell, the muscular mentor, grumbled about the lack of spirit among the young participants. He was disappointed that no one had challenged his disciple, Sylvia, for days. He couldn't comprehend the idea of running away from a challenge. Just as Blundell's frustration was about to boil over, a voice cut through the tension. It was Theo. He greeted Blundell respectfully, and then turned his gaze towards Sylvia. Theodore felt a change in himself. He no longer felt overwhelmed by Sylvia's strength. He believed he had a chance against her now. Blundell noticed Theodore's intent and moved aside, allowing Theodore to approach Sylvia. Theodore, undeterred by the emotionless gaze of Sylvia, issued his challenge for a duel in the pupil tournament. His declaration echoed in the silent room, drawing a mix of laughter and anticipation from the spectators. Sylvia, seemingly surprised, accepted his challenge. The main hall of the Pentarium opened. With the tournament coming to an end, this match would be the final one. The spectators, eager to witness this exciting showdown, began to gather in the Pentarium. As the crowd swelled with anticipation, Theodore and Sylvia stepped into the main hall, ready for their duel. Theodore was taken aback by the crowd that had gathered to watch the duel. This was a stark contrast to his previous fight, which had drawn a much smaller audience. The fame of Sylvia and the grandeur of the main hall had attracted a large crowd, causing Theodore to feel a bit overwhelmed. The audience was buzzing with curiosity and skepticism. Vince took a place among the spectators. He believed in his disciple's potential and encouraged Blundell to watch the match unfold. Finally, the final round of this tournament has begun. Match between Sylvia Adunkrus versus Theodore Miller. Theodore had observed Sylvia's fights and noted her unusually quick deployment of magic. Knowing he would be at a disadvantage if she took the initiative, he decided to act first. Using the combination of Blaze Shell and Gale Force resulted in an attack with both destructive power and speed. With a deafening explosion, the fireballs hit their target, leaving the audience in stunned silence at Theodore's powerful attack. A massive explosion filled the air with smoke and steam, shattering the stone floor of the stadium. Amidst the chaos, Theodore's eyes glowed gold, piercing through the smokescreen. He was shocked to find Sylvia unharmed, her robe's crystals intact. She had used defensive magic to shield herself. Theodore was puzzled as ice was weaker than stone. Then it hit him temperature. Ice could be as strong as steel if cold enough. Sylvia had used this principle to create an ultra-cold ice wall that withstood his attack. As Theodore prepared his next move, Sylvia acted first. She conjured a magic circle with her staff, summoning a liquid snake. This fourth circle magic transformed water into a snake-like creature that moved with the speed and aggression of a wild beast. Theodore had to retreat quickly to avoid its attack. The water snake's attack was so powerful that it could cause damage beyond the crystal's absorption capacity. It struck the ground with such force that it shattered the floor. Theodore quickly moved out of the snake's range, but it was faster than he anticipated. Despite its size, it was twice as fast as him. The water snake was not just an attacker but also a moving defense, blocking Theodore's path to Sylvia. His fireball and lightning bolt attacks were ineffective against it. If this continued, he would exhaust his stamina and magic power. Theodore decided to use one of his hidden cards, the magic bullet. He quietly stretched out his index finger, preparing enough power to penetrate through the water snake. He could now shoot 3 or 4 magic bullets without risking his life. With a determined look, Theodore stood up and maintained his posture. The water snake was chasing him at a terrifying speed, but he was ready to stop it. Theodore called upon Mitra, who had been waiting for his command. Mitra's magic caused the shattered stadium floor to rise up, forming a wall that the water snake crashed into. Despite its strength, it took the snake 3 hits to break through Mitra's barrier. Meanwhile, Theodore prepared his magic bullet. He aimed at Sylvia, who was obscured by her own water snake. The magic bullet shot across the stadium, piercing through the snake and hitting Sylvia. The impact caused one of the crystals on her robe to shatter. The audience was shocked by this turn of events. Sylvia's face was hidden by her bangs, leaving everyone in suspense about her next move. Suddenly Theo felt the intense aura. He was suddenly engulfed in a chilling cold, causing his teeth to chatter and goosebumps to form on his skin. Looking up, he saw a multitude of ice arrows pointing down at him from the ceiling. Sylvia had conjured at least 100 of them, a feat that left Theodore bewildered. As the arrows began to rain down, he knew that even a scratch from one could cause enough damage to break a crystal. With no time to dodge, Theodore cast Burning Hands, summoning 3 pairs of fiery hands. The hands clashed with the ice arrows, creating a dance of fire and ice in the air. Steam rose from the ground as the arrows evaporated, and thanks to Lucia's blessing, Theodore managed to avoid any damage. However, he couldn't help but worry about the frozen ground. Theodore dispelled his Burning Hands spell and tried to see through the steam when Sylvia, with her silver hair, suddenly appeared. She had closed the distance between them in seconds, not by teleportation or speed enhancement magic, but by sliding on an ice road she created with her magic. Caught off guard, Theodore barely managed to dodge Sylvia's staff attacks. Despite his sensory perception warning him of the attacks, he was pushed to his limits due to his lack of hand-to-hand combat skills. He remembered Vince's word about avoiding close combat. In a desperate attempt to create distance, he jumped back, but not before Sylvia's staff hit his crossed arms, breaking one of his crystals. Now at a tie score of 1-1, Theodore managed to put a distance between them. He knew he couldn't let Sylvia get close again. But as he watched her, he saw something unexpected. Sylvia was smiling like a child. The audience was in awe of the intense duel between Theodore and Sylvia. Initially, the pupil tournament was seen as a children's festival, but the level of competition had far exceeded their expectations. Blundell, the Blue Tower Master, was taken aback by the magic Theodore used. However, Blundell seemed more concerned about Sylvia's loneliness than the stakes. He lamented that her exceptional talent made it difficult for her to make friends, and that she had lost her childhood innocence at a young age. Blundell, watching the match, was pleasantly surprised to see Sylvia's psychological wall crumbling. He saw her smiling, a sight he had never seen before, and it brought a smile to his own face. He wished for her to experience all the joy she had missed in her past. Meanwhile, the duel between Theodore and Sylvia intensified. Fire arrows clashed with ice arrows. Sylvia used her ice road again for rapid movement, but Theodore was ready this time. He launched his magic bullet at Sylvia, who managed to dodge it using her haste spell and quick reflexes. However, Theodore had another trick up his sleeve: illusion track. He created a lifelike illusion of himself that fooled Sylvia, adding another layer of complexity to their duel. Theodore didn't waste the opportunity Sylvia's fall provided. He created a pit with stone spears that shattered her second crystal, putting him 1 point ahead. However, he remained cautious, knowing Sylvia was likely to counterattack. As expected, Sylvia charged out of the pit. Theodore kept a close eye on her, but then an icicle shot out from behind Theodore, hitting him in the same spot Sylvia had been hit earlier. One of his crystals shattered. Theodore realized that Sylvia had been observing his skills and tactics, learning from them at an alarming rate. She was quickly catching up. This was the first time Theodore had encountered a peer with an equal learning ability. Sylvia was delighted by the challenge Theodore presented. For the first time, she found a peer who didn't harbor feelings of jealousy or fear towards her, but instead engaged her on an equal footing in magic. This brought a genuine smile to her face, a joy she hadn't experienced since childhood. Growing up, Sylvia's unique silver hair and natural talent for magic had isolated her from her peers. Misunderstandings and envy had led her to build a wall around her heart to avoid getting hurt. This wall had become a real barrier preventing her from advancing to the fifth circle in magic. The elders of the Blue Tower, including Blundell, cared for her but couldn't replace the companionship of a friend. Stuck in place for years, it was Theodore who reached out to her from beyond her collapsed wall, offering a new perspective and a chance for growth. For the first time, Sylvia was filled with a sense of excitement and appreciation. Her dormant magic began to stir as her emotions surged. As her magic power erupted, it created a gust of wind that shook the entire stadium. Sylvia, her cheeks flushed with excitement, declared her desire to win. Theodore, amused by her boldness, echoed her sentiment. He had spent his life chasing after others magicians from storybooks, seniors at the academy, classmates who graduated before him. But now, he was ready to stop chasing and stand on his own. Theodore used his abilities to amplify his magic power and increase his affinity for attributes. His magic circles began to rotate slowly as his magic power increased. He still had one last trick up his sleeve. Sylvia used a second circle magic spell called levitation to float in the air, a smart move to avoid surprise attacks from below or ranged attacks. Theodore, known for his earth magic, saw Sylvia levitate as a countermeasure. However, his magic bullet made her a stationary target in the sky. Sylvia, having experienced magic bullet firsthand, surely knew this. Therefore, Theodore expected her to have a plan. As anticipated, Sylvia cast an ice shield spell. It was more of an ice fortress than a shield, completely obscuring her from Theodore's view. This was a well-thought-out strategy. Theodore decides to use his strongest magic and best affinity. He chanted for the fourth circle magic, double catapult. With his preparations complete, he communicated with the exhausted Mitra and waited for Sylvia's ice shield to clear. Theodore watched as Sylvia's magic transformed the stadium floor into a sheet of ice. The destructive power of her magic was evident. As Sylvia's ice shield melted away, she emerged and began to chant for Ymir, the master of cold, creating a powerful blizzard that far surpassed normal fourth circle magic. Theodore responded by releasing all the spells he had prepared. He triggered 4 fourth circle spells, but they were not enough to counter the blizzard. He needed to act quickly before the damage absorbed by his crystal became too great. He decided to use fusion magic, overlapping the images of fireballs and stones to create a volcanic eruption. The resulting volcanic shells were a combination of his strongest attack and defense. The shells, massive rocks enveloped in fire, rushed towards the center of Sylvia's blizzard. The clash of their magic was imminent. The spectators were left in awe as a mix of black smoke and water vapor filled the air. Theodore barely managed to withstand the shockwave, his magic power completely drained. He clung to his last remaining crystal, his body swaying from exhaustion. As the dust settled, Sylvia emerged. She asked for his name, to which he replied, "Theodore Miller." She called him Theo and suggested they play again next time. Suddenly, the sound of a crystal breaking echoed through the stadium. However, Theodore's crystal was intact. He looked up to see Sylvia collapsed on the ground. The host then announced that Theodore Miller was the winner of the pupil tournament. The audience erupted in cheers and applause, impressed by the fiery battle between Theodore and Sylvia. Their mentors looked on with satisfaction. Theo was victorious. After the intense tournament, Theo found himself in awe of the formidable opponent, Sylvia. As Theo tended to his wounded body, he couldn't help but marvel at her brilliance and skill. He reflected on his progress, recognizing there was still a long journey ahead of him. While Theo was deep in thought, he caught Vince looking at him. Vince, sounding wise, told Theo to stop comparing himself to Sylvia and to take pride in his own achievements. However, Theo felt his success was unreal, like a far-off dream, Vince expressed that victory often brings a similar feeling. He further suggested that they should prepare for the award ceremony. Noticing Theo's discomfort, Vince helped him get dressed in formal clothes. As he was getting dressed, Vince continued to offer words of encouragement. Theo changed into the formal clothes. He started to look more and more like a gentleman. But the unfamiliar clothes made Theo uncomfortable. Vince calmly told him to tolerate it until the awards were given. Confused, Theo asked why they didn't just rent the clothes. Vince explained that because the emperor would be at the ceremony, they had to dress appropriately. This made things clear for Theo, who thanked Vince for his advice. As they got ready for the big event, there was a sense of excitement and importance in the air. At the Pentarium, in the heart of a bustling crowd, Theo stands amidst the chatter of onlookers. The crowd, filled with anticipation and anxiety, discusses the imminent arrival of the emperor. Among them, whispers of nervousness ripple through, some even on the brink of panic. Suddenly, a wave of cheers erupts from the crowd as they spot a familiar figure. Theo is feeling somewhat out of place. Vince says that he feels the same way. Theo is surrounded by ministers, officials, and representatives from the top 3 families of the kingdom. The weight of their presence leaves him in shock and he wonders how he ended up in such a situation. The seats around him are occupied by influential figures of the kingdom, adding to his stress and discomfort. Amidst this sea of high-ranking individuals gathered for the ceremony, Theo reminds himself to avoid any mistakes. Just then, Sylvia's familiar face emerges from the line of participants. Her quick turn and cheerful smile towards Theo brings a moment of relief. He reciprocates with a smile and reassures himself that his nervousness won't change anything. A single figure stands at their entrance as he walks towards the podium. The atmosphere shifts as the emperor arrives. A collective bow from both award recipients and audience marks their respect for him. The emperor tells the tower master, Blundell, that he hasn't seen him for 3 months. Blundell agrees, stating that it has indeed been a long time since their last meeting. The emperor expresses that their meeting could have taken place sooner if only Blundell hadn't missed the meetings without notifying anyone. Caught in an unexpected situation, Blundell finds himself unable to react. Rumors have circulated that additional leaves were used to take care of Blundell's young disciple. Emperor is curious about the disciple who has received so much resources and attention. He wants to see her personally. Vince asks Blundell if that's why he kept it a secret for 10 years. Blundell can only avert his gaze, his face marked by shame. Finally, the emperor gestures to begin the award ceremony. The emperor decides to give the rewards himself. The award recipients were called forward, their hearts pounding with excitement. One by one, the emperor gives out the rewards. Each one of the recipients gives his thanks to the emperor and receives the appropriate reward. The time comes for the 2 final contestants. Sylvia raises her head. For winning a second place, she is awarded 100 gold, Jack Frost's staff, and on top of that she is bestowed a rank of baroness. She receives the reward and expresses her gratitude. And as the final participant, Theo, he is given in reward of 200 gold and is bestowed a rank of a baron. He is about to thank the emperor, but before that the emperor stops him, saying that when he takes the rank of baron later on he will be promoted to the title of viscount. Theo is shocked. And with that the ceremony is about to come to an end. The emperor gives the final speech saying that the Meloa kingdom, the Hargan Cordillera in the north, and the Andres kingdom in the north are all connected. In order to protect himself from all those barbarians and imperialists, they need more talent like Sylvia and Theo. The result of this tournament will be spreaded all over the world. Melter Kingdom will not make a mistake of overlooking such talent. He asks everyone if they understand. Everyone shouts in approval. After the ceremony, Theo fills up on all sorts of delicious foods. He thinks it's been a fantastic day. Vink feels just as happy. Then, out of nowhere, Gluttony wakes up with a loud yell, demanding to be fed or he'll devour Theo. Quick on his feet, Theo grabs a book and feeds it to Gluttony. A notification pops up. Sandstorm's power and surviving in the harsh cold have been consumed. 4th circle sandstorm and 3rd circle, resist cold, have been obtained. After consuming 2 books, Gluttony comments that it looks like Theo has some questions for him. Theo looks puzzled and asks, "Why are you speaking differently now?" In the beginning, Gluttony used to break after every word, but now he is speaking in full coherent sentences. Gluttony is confused by such a simple question. He answers that because Theo fed him so many artifacts lately it helped Gluttony to regain some of his full power, but it is still not enough to remove the next stage seal, but it helps with Gluttony's speech impediment. Theo just now realized that such a thing was a possibility. Gluttony jokingly asks Theo if he always thought that he spoke in such a weird way. Theo, with a somewhat serious expression, says to Gluttony that he has something else to ask him. Gluttony, with a confused face, says that he already asked a question. Theo pauses and stares at Gluttony. After a brief silence, Gluttony says that it was just a joke and asks Theo if he even knows what a joke is. He replayed that of course he knows. Theo asks if he can transfer his right to ask a question to someone else. Gluttony answers that it's an interesting proposition and that Theo is the first person to make such an offer. While he's the first, there shouldn't be any issue with such a move. Theo then turns to Vince and says that it's okay now. Vince asks Gluttony if it's okay for him to call him that. To this, he replies that it's alright, but he didn't expect so much fuss just to ask such a straightforward question. Right. Vince says that he is right, and the question he wants to ask is about language and magic and the relation between those two things. Vince tells us a brief history lesson. Once upon a time, in an era long before people gave it a name, magic thrived in a world of ancient wonders. Picture elves, with lifespans stretching into millennia, and colossal dragons, their existence spanning tens of thousands of years. In this mystical realm, demons were bound by a deceptive notion of eternity, while countless other beings harnessed the enchanting forces, though they called it by diverse names. In this enchanting world, humans were the odd ones out, devoid of any magical powers. They stole the elven songs, they pounded iron in frustration, and they even tried to imitate the demons' dark arts. Then, after eons of longing, the breakthrough came. The concept of the circle was born. In that pivotal moment, the term magician was bestowed upon the human race. And after countless millennia, the ancient grimoire, which predated the very creation of the world, responded to daring humans who dared to seek its wisdom with a question. Gluttony responds that Vince's question is too generic, and he told him that by the time the complex connection between magic and language could be fully explained, Vince would have been long gone. Vince says that what if he limits it to only human language? Gluttony says that it's the same because the human language has a staggering number of 526 minority languages. Answering that would go over the limit of asking a single question. Vince, after considering his options, asked to teach him why the ancient and modern languages have different functions in magic. Gluttony says that he can do that much and explains that what humans think magic is just persuading the powers that already exist in the world. You can think about it as politely and sincerely asking it to move. Language is just a medium to do that. The closer you get to world creation, the more this mystical power will listen to you. Vince says that the ancient language is far more powerful than the modern one, but it is more difficult to manifest frequently. To which Gluttony says that language is a contradictory medium. Vince thinks that he is fortunate, since Gluttony was already prepared to answer this as a part of his question. Gluttony further explains that if a language has fewer users, then it is more powerful. But since ancient language has very few proper users, it has a low chance to get transferred. Vince pondered that while humans might boast knowledge of ancient languages, it paled in comparison to the vast wisdom held by Gluttony. Gluttony says that unless you can use ancient language in everyday situations, it will be difficult to use in magic. He then asks about the language that Vince is researching, to which he answers that it is called Balkar. In Gluttony records, it is stated that this language has been used by the Balsia Empire during a time when magic was at its peak. Foreigners found the pronunciation difficult to follow. The true value of the language won't be shown unless all 8 tones are pronounced properly. Vince, with a puzzled look, thinks about the pronunciation. Suddenly, a blue glow is emitted from Vince. Gluttony explains that it is the same for any language. The pronunciation and tones that are used by the majority become the standard. The world embraces the approach of magicians using this established language. Suddenly, Theo turns towards Vince, who is emanating a blaze around him. Theo comments that Vince has overcome the wall of the 6th circle, and it is a true honor to be a witness to such a historical moment. Gluttony shouts at Theo to get his attention. Theo says that Gluttony is done for today, and he should go back to sleep. Gluttony comments that Theo is on the edge because of a little joke, but he understands that since he is always sleeping. Theo thinks that it is unusual for Gluttony to still be awake, since normally he would be already sleeping. Before going to sleep, Gluttony is willing to give Theo a piece of advice for quicker growth, because at this rate Theo will drop off old age before he unlocks all the seals. The advice is related to a hidden function that Gluttony possesses. Gluttony eats a book and converts it to the knowledge of the skill. Skill then intakes rare artifacts and plants them in the body. And Memorize can both store and release magic. Those are powers compared to national treasure, but there is another hidden function. Theo thinks that if that is true, then it may be stronger than anything before. Gluttony, with a smirk face, says that it seems appealing to Theo. Theo won't deny it, but he wants to know Gluttony's intention in sharing that. Gluttony was taken aback. Has Theo been deceived his entire life? Couldn't he even recognize Gluttony's sincerity? Gluttony just wants Theo to grow quicker. To make it simple, it comes down to the quality of the food he gives Gluttony, except ballistics magic and introduction to elemental magic. Theo never feeds Gluttony any rare quality books, only common ones. Theo now understands it's just as Gluttony said. Theo realizes that if all of it is true, he needs to start giving Gluttony higher quality books. Gluttony says that the hidden function can be released by consuming an item that is in the current room. Theo asks what it is. After hearing the answer, he is shocked by it. As the enigmatic blue light surrounding Vince gradually faded, he returned to his senses. Theo congratulates Vince on reaching the 6th circle. Grateful, Vince attributed his progress to Theo, acknowledging that without his guidance, he might have toiled for many more years on his own. Their fateful encounter at Bergen Academy had become the cornerstone of Vince's life, a blessing beyond measure. Theo, in turn, was deeply honored by the professor's appreciation. The recent conversation with Gluttony, though challenging, had advanced the field of archaeology forward by several years. Vince marveled at the unexpected reward for his patience. Yet, Theo hesitated, grappling with whether to share Gluttony's revelation with Vince. The audacity of Gluttony's request for a pocket inventory, as food, weighed heavily on Theo's mind. Did Gluttony not grasp the rarity and worth of such an item? Gluttony's suggestion to utilize a pocket inventory, an item so scarce it couldn't be purchased, is borderline madness. Crafting one required skills exclusive to those of the Sixth Circle, and even then, it demanded mastery of sealing space within the material realm, an endeavor of staggering complexity. Legally, only magicians of superior standing or those sanctioned by the academic society were permitted to sell such items. Personal transactions were strictly forbidden, and once lost or destroyed, a replacement was unattainable. Theo considered alternative approaches. Perhaps a defective substitute from the black market would suffice. Suddenly Vince remembered that he had something to say to Theo. Theo, initially anxious, is reassured not to feel burdened. The conversation takes an intriguing turn. Vince asks if Theo would consider becoming his top student. Theo, clearly surprised, seeks clarification. The professor confirms Theo's suspicion, expressing the intention to place Theo's name at the top of his lineage. With a grin on his face, Vince asks if Theo is comfortable with this proposition. Vince acknowledges that bringing this up now looks cowardly. Despite any doubts Theo might have about Vince's intentions, Vince admits he lacks the right to deny his own desire to benefit from the grimoire. Vince admits that he wanted to ask Theo this for a long time. Theo accepts Vince's request. Both of them shake hands. Theo asks to be under the professor's guidance in the future. In a surprising turn, the professor insists on a change in title. They no longer wish to be called Professor. Instead, they ask Theo to address them as Master. Theo agrees, solidifying their new bond. Outside of the event schedule board, Theo and Vince discuss the appeal of summoning magic. Theo finds it intriguing. Also, this year's attack magic hosted by Red Tower is also interesting. Vince is hesitant about attending an event focused on attack magic. He knows it will be filled with individuals who revel in destruction, an outlook he doesn't particularly share. As they chat, they're approached by a stranger named Melas from the Blue Tower. She seeks out Theo and Vince for a specific request. This catches them off guard. Melas explains her affiliation with the Blue Tower and urgently asks them to accompany her. Though surprised, Theo and Vince agree, curious about the summons from the Tower Master. While walking towards the Blue Tower Master headquarters, Theo asks why it feels like everyone is staring at them. Theo is curious about the attention and whether there's anything to be concerned about. Theo's curiosity is piqued, but Vince advises him to ignore the onlookers, cautioning that any acknowledgement may only encourage them. The creak of a door heralds the arrival of their summoner. Blue Tower Master rises to greet Theo and Vince. Blue Tower Master is delighted by their presence, joking about the strain of waiting. Blue Tower Master apologizes for summoning them early in the morning, but before they can continue, Blue Tower Master interjects with a blaze of laughter, causing a surprised reaction from Vince. Blue Tower Master points out Vince's changed appearance, noting that he's shed another layer of his wall, and congratulates him on leveling up. Vince thanks Blue Tower Master for noticing. Blue Tower Master addresses Vince, presenting him with two sets of numbers, 932 and 1106. These figures represent the staggering number of people who have been attempting to gather information about Theodore Miller and Vince Heidel from yesterday until now. Blue Tower Master explains that they've anticipated this level of interest and took measures to block the information well before the award ceremony. Theo and Vince are taken aback, with Vince expressing surprise at the Blue Tower Master's foresight. Blue Tower Master assures Theo and Vince that they need not worry about unwanted attention. This level of attention is nothing out of the ordinary, though this time it was on a bigger scale. Vince expressed disdain for the political machinations in the capital and confessed that it was the main reason he left the capital. Vince is enraged by the idea that someone is trying to reach for his disciple. Theo is amazed at the heat radiating from Vince's unconscious magical emissions. Blue Tower Master advises caution, warning against escalating tensions with excessive displays of power. He reminds Vince that even as a Sixth Circle war mage, wielding power alone won't change the politics. The heated air quickly cools with a wave of Blue Tower Master's hand, demonstrating his power. Blue Tower Master suggests that if he were in charge, he'd simply overpower and destroy them all. Blue Tower Master states that once you reach the Eighth Circle, you can exert your dominance without consequence. Vince's and Theo's jaws drop in disbelief. Blue Tower Master, sensing the tension, lightens the mood, revealing a surprise he prepared. The atmosphere becomes more relaxed, with everyone's attention refocused on the matter at hand. Blue Tower Master presents Theo with an offer. Vince recognizes that Theo holds a basic rank and inquires if this might be a dispatch. Vince seems uncertain about the situation. Blue Tower Master explains that if dealing with a difficult situation is proving to be a challenge, it's important to find an alternative, suggesting that this opportunity might be better than remaining locked in their dorms until the competition ends. Blue Tower Master suggests to Theo that he should tackle this task with a relaxed mindset, emphasizing that it's an opportunity for him to unwind. Blue Tower Master has learned that Theo hasn't been home for half a decade. Blue Tower Master puts forth the suggestion of utilizing this mission as a chance for Theo to return to his native place. Theo, taken aback, inquires if they are referring to his own barony land. Blue Tower Master affirms that they are indeed talking about the Miller barony territory, much to Theo's astonishment. A skilled magician was dispatched to investigate a recently discovered cave in the Miller Barony territory. Contrary to expectations, it appeared to be an ordinary cave, not a dungeon. The mission seemed straightforward: investigate the caves and report back. However, the magician had lost contact. Theo's mission is to ask around while he rests in his hometown. Those conditions aren't that bad for Theo. If the missing magician was located, it was advised to return with him. With a nod of agreement from Vince, the plan was set in motion. There was confidence that this task could be accomplished effortlessly. A self-assured smile conveyed this sentiment, a gesture that didn't even require a second thought. The Blue Tower Master, lost in his thoughts, began to worry. He mumbled to himself, expressing concerns. He considered the possibility that the magician hadn't simply lost contact, but rather, had been forced to do so, hinting at potential danger. This sudden change in tone and topic confused Theo and Vince. Suddenly, with a snap, a realization seemed to strike the Blue Tower Master. He has a perfect companion in mind. That companion was currently peeking right around the corner. Suddenly Theo's gaze was pointed towards her. "Sylvia," Theo said. Stepping forward, Theo addressed Sylvia directly, making her blush. She looked back with a mix of curiosity and uncertainty, getting wet just from looking at Theo. It wasn't just Theo who had been the subject of recent inquiries into personal details. Sylvia, too, found herself in a similar situation. Theo, taken aback by this sudden revelation, realizes that by the companion the Blue Tower Master meant Sylvia. This revelation was acknowledged with a shared look of concern and a nervous sweat. Theo quickly apologized and suggested he would go on the mission next time. Blue Tower Master grabbed Theo and explained that Sylvia has no experience being so close to someone her age. While her magical abilities were exceptional, her mindset was still immature. That's why the Blue Tower Master wants the two of them to go on the mission. Theo says that it might seem unusual for a man and woman to go on a trip alone. Blue Tower Master emphasized that Sylvia was still unfamiliar with romantic feelings toward the opposite gender. He explained that her interest in Theo was more akin to kinship. Sylvia simply needed someone to be friends with, even if it was in that kind of way. Blue Tower Master gazed at Theo, hoping that his words were understood and taken to heart. Blue Tower Master pointed Theo toward a badge that he prepared for him. Members of the Magic Academic Society received a badge that served as proof of their identity. Depending on the rank of the badge, the funding provided would vary. The mission given to Theo and Sylvia is of the lowest category, a 9th rank, and it receives a modest funding of 3 gold coins. Blue Tower Master mentioned the possibility of using some of his own power to support Theo and Sylvia, which would substantially increase their budget. With a slide of the Blue Tower Master hand, the badge's value changes. Theo is shocked by this sudden turn of events. By using the Blue Tower Master name, Theo would be able to secure a much larger sum, 100 gold. The revelation of the amount was staggering, equivalent to several years of the Miller Barony's budget. Given the current period with crops yet to bear fruit, this funding could be a lifeline for the territory. Theo thinks about adding it to the 200 gold he had already won as the tournament prize. It could have a big impact on supporting his hometown. Theo affirmed his decision with a determined "okay," deciding to go on the mission with Sylvia. The same Sylvie who was trying to eavesdrop on the conversation. This decision was met with approval and a hearty laugh from the Blue Tower Master. Blue Tower Master said that it would be a good opportunity for Theo to study as well. It is not so often that one can get a chance to travel with a 5th circle magician. Returning home with 300 gold, a magician of such high caliber and a girl on top of that was a rare chance, but Theo couldn't help but imagine the comments he would hear. He recognized this journey as a form of returning home in glory. Outside, Vince expressed his gratitude to Miss Anna for helping him yet again, but Miss Anna quickly dismissed the notion of indebtedness, reassuring Vince not to say such things. Miss Anna attributes the safe journey to the capital to both Vince and his disciple. She expressed confidence in their ability to handle requests of various complexities. Vince appreciated the help but subtly hinted at his discomfort, requesting a bit of space. Miss Anna recognizes Vince's breakthrough to the 6th circle. Just thinking about finally becoming a supreme wife makes her horny. Vince was unable to dismiss the sensation that he had encountered that stare previously, causing droplets of anxious sweat to trickle down his face. Vince quickly changed the subject, advising Theo to go and rest. There was an air of anxiety about the whole situation, perhaps stemming from the weight of the upcoming responsibilities. With the reassurance that all the troublesome individuals would return to their respective territories after the contest, Vince emphasized that, after this, Theo would have the opportunity to focus quietly on his magic. Vince smiled as he gave Theo a final reminder to keep the pocket inventory safe. Vince emphasized the importance, hinting at the potential consequences if it were to be lost. The mention of a tracking magic attached to it added an extra layer of caution. Theo broke into a nervous sweat at the thought of gluttony potentially consuming the pocket inventory. Theo assured Vince that he would handle it with care, not willing to risk the consequences. The possibility of being dragged into a public hearing was a worrisome thought. The wagon driver took a quick look and asked if they could start the journey. With a smile on his face, Theo proceeded to begin the journey. Vince wished them a safe journey. The sound of wagons echoed as they departed. Their journey began, steadily making their way towards the Miller Barony. Theo noted that at this pace, they would reach their destination in a surprisingly short 5 days, rather than the expected half a month. However, there was an even bigger concern on his mind. The silence was just too awkward. Theo was well aware that Sylvia harbored no romantic interest in him as a male, and yet, the awkwardness persisted. Breaking the silence, Theo addressed Sylvia, seeking to alleviate the tension. He asks about her interest in spirits. Sylvia, momentarily taken aback, seemed to process the question. Theo began to summon Mitra. Upon seeing Mitra, Sylvia uttered a single word, cute, breaking the awkward silence. Theo felt a sense of relief noticing that Sylvia was still capable of showing emotions. Sylvia's response was a mix of surprise and amusement. Sylvia and Mitra shared a light-hearted moment, enjoying the playful interaction. As their journey continued, the wagons echoed in the background. Theo marveled at how quickly 4 days had passed, realizing they would likely arrive at the barony by the next day. In an attempt to learn more about Theo's hometown, Sylvia struck up a conversation. Theo described it as a typical countryside village, where survival depended on crop harvests. They had access to a dense forest and mountain nearby, providing opportunities for hunting and feasting. Despite not being affluent, the community was characterized by a strong sense of sharing with everyone. Theo called it a place where idiots like that live. Sylvia giggled and declared that it was a good place. Theo affirmed this with a smile. Suddenly Theo senses a danger. He immediately uses his Hawkeye skill. What he saw was shocking. An army of undead. He just couldn't believe that such a thing would happen in a place like that. Theo and Sylvia stand tall, facing down an army of the undead. It's a fight for survival, and they know it. They ready their magic and devise a plan of attack, with Theo taking the left and Sylvia taking the right. Okay, Sylvia calls out while nodding silently, ready to dive headfirst into the fray. It's a ballet of battle, each move perfectly synchronized. They know each other's strengths and weaknesses, and it shows. The undead horde comes at them like a tidal wave, but Theo and Sylvia hold their ground. The battle rages on, and the chaos is palpable. The undead let out soul-chilling roars and snarls as they close in. But our heroes are no pushovers. They're standing their ground. Get a hold of yourself, sir. A voice cuts through the battlefield, a stark reminder of the danger they're in. A voice breaks through the chaos. It's Theo, offering an escape plan in the midst of the storm. The plan is clear. The rest need to regroup and escape while Theo and Sylvia hold off the attackers. Theo and Coachman exchange a determined look. The Coachman comprehends his duty. He is to flee with the others, ensuring their survival and ability to battle in the days to come. Goblins, kobolds, and even orcs. It's a veritable menagerie of creatures, but there's a silver lining. No sign of those massive undead monsters, thank goodness. Chills run down our spines as Theo notices something peculiar. The absence of a black magician's energy signature leaves them puzzled and uneasy. Theo, with a determined look in his eyes, unleashes his fourth circle magic blaze shell. The undead scream as they are engulfed in flames, burning to death once again. Despite their diminished physical abilities and lack of tools, the undead is a formidable force. In a surprising twist, we encounter a troll among the undead. But Theo is undeterred. He boldly declares that he could face 1,000 more like this. However, he soon realizes that using his powerful blaze shell magic might be overkill. The situation becomes even more dire as there's not a single black magician around to control the undead. Theo tries to use magic bullets, but they don't seem to work well on the undead. In a desperate move, he dodges the attack. Suddenly, the troll is attacked with a water spell. Could it be a liquid snake? The troll is left wheezing and coughing. With his last breath, he is frozen into an ice crystal. Sylvia, having just used her fourth circle magic liquid snake, makes Theo take a moment to reflect. He realizes that even though liquid snake is a high-level magic, its efficiency is quite high, making it useful in their current predicament. Sylvia adds that Theo's observation is somewhat similar to what her grandpa once said. Suddenly, Theo turns to Mitra and asks if she can control magic. Mitra responds with a "Hoi!" before summoning an earthworm. The ground crumbles beneath them, leaving everyone in awe. Theo reveals that he creates the magic and Mitra controls it. The ground trembles beneath them and everything around them is knocked down. It's a sight to behold. However, the exertion takes a toll on Theo. He admits to overexerting himself and acknowledges that there are areas he needs to improve. But he's also triumphant he succeeded in controlling the magic, and he's confident he'll do better next time. Just then, they're approached by the coachman who asks if they've gotten rid of all the undead beasts. Theo confirms they have, for now, but warns that more might come. They need to leave as soon as possible. As they prepare to leave, Theo reflects on the situation. He finds it strange that so many undead have been active for a long time in the remote Miller Barony. He suspects that a black magician and the undead have appeared recently. The journey continues as they cross the fourth hill between the Miller Barony and the border area where they are attacked by undead. They're almost at their destination, but Theo has a bad feeling. He prepares to go outside to take a look at the situation. He devises a signal for Sylvia. 3 knocks on the roof of the carriage for when she needs to come out of the carriage. Theo gets outside and positions himself on the roof of the carriage. Suddenly, Theo uses his Hawkeye magic and spots something alarming in the distance. In a panic, he urges their driver to go faster. What has Theo seen? And will they make it to their destination safely? Theo and Sylvia. Fresh from a battle with the undead, they're now journeying to Theo's hometown. But the adventure is far from over. As they approach the outskirts of the village, they stumble upon a scene of chaos. Mercenaries are locked in combat with an undead army. The clanging of swords and the fierce battle cries fill the air. Damn it! One of them exclaims, slashing through the undead with a fiery determination. But our heroes aren't just bystanders. Theo tells the coachman to head straight for the village. Theo and Sylvia are quick to join the fight, lending their skills to aid the mercenaries. Theo, with his magical prowess, prepares a powerful spell. Memorize, triple slot liberation. Triple fire arrow! He chants. The air crackles with energy as fire arrows burst forth, stunning everyone on the battlefield. But the danger is never far from away. An icicle arrow whizzes through the air, prompting a warning. It's dangerous. Everyone watch out! A question arises. Is it an enemy? But soon they realize that they have allies in this fight. Two magicians with incredible abilities have joined the battle. The mercenaries have gained a new resolve to push win the fight and defeat the enemy. The mercenaries are relentless, pushing forward and warning each other not to slack off. But amidst the heat of the battle, there's also a sense of camaraderie and humor. Sylvia prepares to cast a powerful fireball. Theo joins in and they both cast the powerful spell together. The fireball lights the entire battlefield, obliterating every enemy in its path. As dawn breaks, they notice the sun rising, a beacon of hope after a night of intense battle. The undead are retreating, and for now, they've overcome the crisis. But a new threat emerges: a wyvern. Theo attempts to intercept it with magic bullets, but it's already too late. A protection bangle is activated, but there's a sense of impending doom. This shield will definitely break, one of them exclaims. In a surprising twist, a new ally is revealed. He comments that he thought that Theo and Sylvia were magicians, but it turns out they are still young kids. The sword-wielding mercenaries take a fighting stance and slices the wyvern. While Theo and Sylvia shield themselves from the aftershock, the sword-wielding mercenaries manage to get rid of the pesky wyvern that had been a constant threat. As the dust settles, they introduce themselves to the mercenaries. I'm Theodore, the investigator dispatched by the Magic Academic Society. This is my colleague Sylvia. The mercenaries, in turn, reveal that they were hired by the lord of the village. They're known as the Wandering Wolves, and their commander is Randolph. But with introductions out of the way, it's time for a reality check. Randolph announces that he'll have to confirm their identities first due to the situation. Theo, after being rescued by Randolph, is met with a request to confirm his identity. Theo didn't expect that upon his return. He gives Randolph a certificate, a document that Randolph hasn't seen in a long time. The certificate reveals that Theo is not just any random magician, he is the honorary Baron, Theodore Miller. This revelation shocks Randolph, especially when he realizes that he was rude to Theo, who is the son of his employer. Theo and Sylvia have just been rescued by Randolph and are now on their way to Theo's hometown. The town is buzzing with excitement and surprise. The news of Theo's return spreads like wildfire, causing quite a stir among the townsfolk. They can't believe their eyes. The young master, who had left to study, has returned. Theo's reunion with his grandfather, Albert, is a heartwarming scene. Albert is overjoyed to see how much Theo has grown and matured in his absence. The town erupts in cheers as they welcome their young master back. But amidst the joy and celebration, a new face catches everyone's attention: Sylvia. The townsfolk are taken aback by her beauty, and speculation begins to swirl. They wonder where Theo found such an attractive potential marriage partner. The question on everyone's lips is Sylvia Theo's girlfriend? All the commotion makes Sylvia feel uncomfortable. The townsfolk are so thrilled that they even offer him a family heirloom, a piece of silk from their linen shop that's enough to make a bridal veil. The townsfolk are clearly hopeful about Theo's relationship with Sylvia. Amongst the crowd emerges Theo's father. Theo's reunion with his father is an emotional moment. His father expresses relief at seeing Theo healthy but also feels ashamed for the state of their hometown. However, Theo reassures him, emphasizing that everyone's safety is what matters most. After the initial excitement, they decide to continue their conversation inside. They talk over a bowl of watery and bland soup that Theo has missed. They discuss their immediate plans. There's a lot that Theo wants to talk about with his family, but he knows they need to address the immediate danger first. We learn about the unsettling events that have been plaguing Theo's hometown. A month ago, undead creatures started appearing, first discovered by Old Man Paul, the woodcutter. The town, lacking the resources to deal with such a threat, found unexpected help in a group of mercenaries known as the Wandering Wolves. These mercenaries, initially in the area to subjugate bandits, happened to be staying in the village when the monsters attacked. They've been protecting the town for a week now, a kindness that has left the townsfolk grateful yet puzzled. After all, mercenaries usually don't do things that won't get them money. This leads to speculation: could there be a hidden treasure in the village? After the meal, Theo bids Sylvia goodbye for now and goes to his room, where he calls upon Gluttony. He fed Gluttony 2 books, building a castle wall using magic and explosions art to gain this knowledge. His proficiency in the fourth circle magic stone wall and his newly learned fourth circle magic explosion have increased. Afterward, Theo expresses his suspicion about the situation, particularly about the leader of the mercenaries who is overwhelmingly talented. Theo turns to Gluttony for help. Gluttony, who seems to have been unaware of the recent events, needs to be brought up to speed. Theo explains the situation concisely: the missing investigator, the sudden appearance of undead in a remote territory, and the existence of a black magician controlling them. Gluttony acknowledges Theo's explanation and agrees that the situation is far from normal. Gluttony reveals that he suspects someone as the ringleader of the recent unsettling events. He also mentions a cave where there's a high chance that a grimoire was discovered. This revelation takes Theo by surprise. The existence of other grimoires news to Theo. Theo is absolutely stunned by what he's just learned. It turns out there are more grimoires out there just like Gluttony. But they're not linked to the 7 deadly sins like Gluttony is. This new discovery has sent shockwaves through our protagonist. This grimoire might be connected to the dark arts of necromancy. Instead of simply hypothesizing, our clever duo decides it's time for some hands-on investigation. Gluttony, in a surprising turn of events, makes Theo an offer. He suggests using his power to scan the area for any lurking grimoire. But hold on, there's more to it. Gluttony also plans to track down the enigmatic black magician while he scans for the grimoire. Theo, ever the cautious one, raises an important point. Why is Gluttony suddenly so friendly? Why the change in behavior? Gluttony got something big up his sleeve, and it's not bad news for our protagonist. In fact, it could be a game changer. Gluttony unveils a power that takes Theo by surprise. He can actually consume grimoires. Just like a magician absorbing the knowledge from a magic book, Theo can unlock their secrets and unleash untapped potential. If Theo agrees to this plan, his growth as a magician will skyrocket. But of course, Theo can't help but bring up Gluttony's insatiable appetite. It's all about satisfying his hunger, isn't it? With a wry smile, Theo agrees to the deal. After all, this hunger, this desire for more, is what defines him. It's his essence, his very being. Gluttony certainly knows how to push the right buttons. Grinning from ear to ear, Gluttony wastes no time. He initiates the scan, and the energy in the room crackles with anticipation. It's about to go down. And just like that, it's done. Gluttony's power has worked its magic, and he's pinpointed their target. But hold on, there's a twist. This guy they're after? He's no pushover. He managed to deflect some of Gluttony's scan, and that's saying something. This grimoire seems to have an unusual relationship with its owner. Unlike most, who live off their hosts, this one's symbiotic. It's a real rarity, and it's clearly taken a toll on its owner. Gluttony believes the grimoire that attacked our heroes is the same as the one they're after. It's all starting to come together, isn't it? Gluttony reveals that he's pinpointed the location. Picture the cave they've been investigating as the epicenter, with both the grimoire and its host residing there. Gluttony's played his part, and now he's ready for a little nap. Theo throws out a game-changing question. Can Gluttony consume the undead? It's a brilliant move when you think about it. After all, if they're animated by magic, then they're technically fair game, right? Gluttony reminds us that once a spell is broken, those undead will become plain old corpses. Theo, though slightly disappointed, doesn't give up. He pushes for more, and Gluttony teases that there might just be exceptions to the rule. Theo, ever the vigilant one, senses a presence outside. The suspense builds as we hear knocking on the door. It's Randolph. He comes to talk with Theo. There is only one question on Theo's mind. Why did the mercenaries stay in this village? Theo doesn't beat around the bush. He wants to know why Randolph chose to stay, defying logic and risking danger. Is it a genuine act of kindness, or is there something more at play? The response is cryptic, leaving us with even more questions. This person won't spill all the beans, but it's enough to give Theo a glimpse into their world. With a sigh, Theo accepts that he won't get the full story. But he's willing to settle for what he can grasp. Turns out, ages ago, an ancestor set out on a quest to track down a notorious black magician. This fearless adventurer left for foreign shores, but alas, they never returned. And what's even more interesting? They took with them a pair of legendary twin swords, never to be seen again. The family didn't give up hope, though. They embarked on a quest to uncover the whereabouts of those coveted swords. They even created a powerful artifact designed to lead them straight to the missing heirloom. Theo's sharp mind doesn't miss a beat. He starts to put the puzzle pieces together, realizing that the artifact guided them here, to this mountain. It's as if fate itself led them to this very moment, with the undead army acting as an eerie signpost. These aren't just any old swords. They hold the secrets of a lost swordsmanship style, a legacy waiting to be reclaimed. With them in hand, Randolph believes he can ascend to the ranks of a true sword master in record time. But the stakes are high, and Randolph makes an unexpected move. He urges Theo to evacuate with the villagers, sacrificing the chance to retrieve the swords to save lives. Theo isn't one to back down. He's determined to see this through, even if it means facing impossible odds. The lives of the villagers weigh heavily on his heart. Theo, always full of surprises, steps forward with a proposal that leaves everyone in the room stunned. A commission from investigator Theodore Miller, of the prestigious Magic Academic Society, to none other than the commander of the Wandering Wolves. Randolph's reaction says it all. He's taken aback, not quite sure what to make of this sudden turn of events. After all, it's not every day you get an offer like this. Theos is offering a hefty deposit of 100 gold, with an additional 200 gold upon successful completion of the task. That's a total of 300 gold. With that kind of treasure, he's hiring the Wandering Wolves for a solid 2 days. 300 gold is no small sum, and it's clear this offer has taken Randolph by surprise. Randolph's curiosity is piqued. He will hear Theo out for now. Theo is surprised that his offer wasn't enough to seal the deal. Randolph knows that money alone won't win this battle. Randolph lays out his cards on the table. He knows that no mercenary would take on a fight they can't win. Randolph knows Theo is offering 300 gold because he's got a plan up his sleeve, and he's ready to turn the tables. It's clear to Theo that Randolph is no ordinary mercenary. His thinking is too strategic, too unconventional for a run-of-the-mill mercenary. There's something about him that sets him apart. The harsh truth is laid bare. The undead are a relentless force, and a defensive battle is a losing proposition. They don't tire, they don't quit, and they just keep coming. Theo drops the bombshell. There's only one way out of this mess: counterattack. It's a bold move, one that requires careful planning and an unyielding resolve. Theo's bold proposal has struck a chord. His suggestion to take a small, elite force to attack the enemy's base is met with thoughtful consideration. It's clear that he's thought this through, and the idea has potential. But of course, Randolph isn't one to be swayed easily. He raises a valid point. Theo's plan might not be enough to win him over completely. There's still something missing, something that will seal the deal. After all, it's not just about having a plan, it's about having the right plan, one that ensures victory. Theo claims to have discovered the Black Magician's base. But Randolph, ever the skeptical one, demands more proof. Theo lays out his plan. He wants Randolph to focus on protecting Sylvia and their front line, while he tackles the necromancers. But there's a twist. Theo's got some serious intel. He knows exactly where the enemy's base is. Randolph questions why they're attacking at night. Isn't daylight more advantageous? Well, turns out, not when it comes to the undead. Theo drops some serious knowledge. Nighttime is when the undead are prepping for their assault, making the enemy base vulnerable. Randolph just takes a moment to appreciate how this 19-year-old is pulling off these strategic moves. What are they teaching at the Magic Tower? The plan is set. Mercenaries, known as the Wandering Wolves, are assigned to defend the village. Meanwhile, our trio Theo, Sylvia, and Randolph gears up for the ultimate showdown. Their target? The necromancer hiding out in a cave. Theo's got all the bases covered. He's thought of everything. In case their counterattack goes south, they've got a contingency plan. They'll make sure to get the remaining defenses and village folk to safety. Randolph, well, he's left with no choice but to throw in the towel. All his reasons for hesitating on this mission have been addressed. It's official, he's accepting Theo's commission. And guess what? He's even making a solemn vow on the great god of battle. And if that wasn't enough, Theo mentions how every item that is found during the mission is his since he is the one who employed Randolph. And just so Randolph knows, Theo has some knowledge of a supposed lost heirloom that he may be interested in. Theo asks Randolph if he wants to do some pre-bidding. Randolph is shocked that Theo has planned this from the beginning. Theo acquires 200 gold and Randolph gets the heirloom. It's a win-win situation. Although Randolph is not buying into Theo's idea of a win-win, everyone is on top of their game, taking defensive positions. Even if the undead horde doubles in size, they're ready to face whatever's coming their way. Randolph can't help but express his surprise at Theo's abilities. Even for a skilled magician, constructing such a formidable defense in just half a day is mind-blowing. You can see the admiration and maybe a tinge of envy in Randolph's eyes. Maybe he's regretting not picking up some magic skills himself. And then, we get this adorable moment of Sylvia yawning. Looks like she just woke up. The sun starts its descent. It's a subtle reminder that time is running out. Our trio needs to get their game faces on and make their final preparations. Randolph's rallying the troops, and you can feel the tension in the air. Just by looking at their faces, he knows the team's been through a lot. But there's no time for complaints now. Today is the final showdown. The undead horde is approaching, and their roars echo through the night. It's an eerie and intense moment, setting the stage for an epic battle. And then there's Randolph, with that sly grin on his face. He's not about to let the gravity of the situation dampen his spirits. He's all about seizing the moment, savoring this night of reckoning. You can't help but admire his spirit. The energy is electric, the anticipation is palpable, and you can feel the adrenaline pumping. It's the final push, the culmination of all their efforts. This is the night they bid farewell to the forces of the undead. Explosions light up the night, punctuating the fervor of the impending battle. The stage is set for an all-out showdown, and you can practically taste the excitement. Theo and Sylvia are locked in, their focus unyielding. They're poised and ready for what's to come. Their trust in Randolph is palpable. You can see it in their eyes, they're putting their lives in his hands. And then there's Randolph, the man with the plan. He's calm, cool, and collected. He's got this. It's finally time to set things in motion. As the trio readies themselves, you can sense the weight of the situation. And then, with a powerful surge of force, they're off. Randolph is showcasing his incredible skills. His agility and precision are nothing short of awe-inspiring. It's like a beautifully choreographed dance. Theo is particularly impressed. He can't believe his eyes. The way they move, it's like a masterclass in aura manipulation. It's clear that Randolph is not your average human. He is on a whole different level. Randolph, without any magic, is holding his own. And then, we get a glimpse into their communication. It's a well-oiled machine, with Theo taking the lead and providing precise instructions. It's all about efficiency and getting the job done. After arriving at the destination, Randolph playfully admits that he almost forgot how light both of them are. Before our heroes step into the cave, Theo takes a moment to use his skill. With a swift motion, he scans the entrance. He spots the necromancer, but even a small glimpse at his mana causes a huge strain on Theo. Theo is feeling the strain. Sylvia, ever the concerned friend, checks in on Theo. She's worried about him. Theo, though visibly exhausted, assures Sylvia that he's alright. He's tough, but you can tell he's pushing himself to the limit. Theo's encounter with the dark mana is chilling. He felt like he was being consumed by darkness. It's a powerful reminder of the dangers they're facing. Theo, ever the strategist, knows the gravity of the situation. If they don't act fast, things could get even more dangerous. It's clear that the main boss is inside the cave, and the aura around it is tainted by darkness. Our trio, undeterred by the foreboding atmosphere, confidently steps into the cave. It's clear that they're ready for whatever awaits them inside. But suddenly, they're met with a chilling voice echoing through the cave. It's the main boss, and he's none too pleased about uninvited guests. The boss is furious, referring to our heroes as rats invading his dwelling. He issues a deadly ultimatum, vowing that they won't leave the cave alive. The command is given, and the battle is about to erupt. The tension is electric, and you can feel the impending clash between our heroes and the undead forces. Randolph, always the sharp strategist, notes that they've arrived just in the nick of time. It's a moment of relief, knowing that they haven't missed their chance. Randolph remarks on the poor choice of battle positions made by their enemies. Theo steps up, summoning Fireball in one hand and a barrier in the other. He's calmly wielding this devastating power inside a cave. Randolph thought he might be planning a suicide bombing, but that is not the case. Randolph is amazed by Theo's display of mastery. Our heroes are strategizing, and they're going to need every ounce of their power to face this formidable foe. Theo takes charge, urging for a quick purification of the air with Sylvia's wind magic. Theo's concerned, asking Sylvia about her magic reserves. She responds with confidence, stating she's at about 80%. And Mr. Randolph? He's right there with her, ready for whatever comes their way. With a determined snap, they decide it's time to press on. Step by step, they navigate through the cave, every footfall echoing in the silence. And then comes the shocking revelation. According to the report, this cave should be just a few hundred meters deep. There's no sign of an end in sight. It's like they've stepped into another world entirely. But leave it to Theo to think outside the box. He instructed Randolph to swing at the walls with all that he had. Randolph swung his sword with all his might against the cave wall. This is where it gets interesting. The wall got damaged, but after a brief moment, it got back to normal. Theo has come to the conclusion that this must be a dungeon. A dungeon, right here in the heart of this cave. Just when you thought things couldn't get any wilder, suddenly specters materialized, and the situation just went from bad to worse. Randolph's not holding back, swinging his weapon with all he's got. But there's a problem. He didn't pack any holy water, but fear not, Theo steps up, showing his mettle. With a protective barrier, he shields the team. And Mr. Randolph? He knows when to delegate. He takes a step back and trusts Theo. He's leaving it in his capable hands. Theo takes charge, seizing the opportunity. With a swift movement, he strikes, determined to vanquish these spectral foes. Theo, in a moment of sheer surprise, has consumed the souls of various spectral creatures. Goblins, orcs, trolls, you name it. It's a jaw-dropping moment that leaves us all wondering, can specters be consumed because they're essentially spirits? Now, this is where things get deep. We're talking about the concept of spiritual bodies, a topic that delves into the essence of existence beyond the physical realm. And remember that cryptic message about gluttony? Well, it looks like it wasn't just empty words. This was the exception they were talking about, a phenomenon beyond anyone's expectations. Sylvia and Randolph are understandably taken aback. They're practically begging Theo to spill the beans on how he pulled off this mind-boggling feat. Is it a form of draining? A heightened version of sealing magic? The questions are endless. Theo thinks to himself that he could have easily played it off as the result of a pendant he prepared beforehand. But then, just when you think things are getting under control, a new development emerges. The ground shakes, and it's like the very fabric of reality is shifting around them. What could it be? Our trio has come face to face with a malevolent presence, and it's radiating an ominous energy that sends shivers down their spines. Right at the center of this malevolence stands an eerie sculpture, exuding power and foreboding. It's clear that this is the epicenter of the dark energy that permeates the cave, and here he is, the necromancer leader, addressing our heroes as little rats. He's not happy. It seems they've disrupted his plans, and he's not one to take it lightly. He's wielding power beyond imagination, claiming that even if they manage to interfere with his creation, it won't be enough. This being sees itself as more than just an individual. It refers to itself as this body, which hints at a higher form of existence. The necromancer makes it clear that had our heroes arrived even a fraction earlier, they might have been able to stop his sinister plan. It's a chilling proclamation, and it's clear that they're up against an opponent of immense power. As the cave crackles and groans, our heroes are faced with the harsh reality that they're confronting something far beyond what they've encountered before. The Elder Lich, a being of the highest grade, Randolph, showing his mettle, turns to Theo for a plan. The gravity of the situation is not lost on them. This isn't just any lich, it's an Elder Lich, a foe that won't go down with a simple blow. Theo steps up, providing crucial information. Unlike a standard lich, destroying its body won't be enough. They need to locate the life vessel, containing its extracted spirit, and obliterate it. This is where things get tricky. The true essence of the Elder Lich has been separated from its body, and it's up to our heroes to track it down and deliver the final blow. Theo takes charge, recognizing the urgency of the situation. He knows that locating the life vessel is their only shot at victory. Meanwhile, he entrusts Sylvia and Randolph with a crucial task: distract the Elder Lich. Sylvia and Randolph step up to the plate, ready to face this formidable foe head-on. The Lich's words are a chilling reminder of the darkness they're up against. He initially considered turning our heroes into his slaves, a fate worse than death. But now the Elder Lich, clearly intrigued by Theo's abilities, sees him as an intriguing test subject. The Lich's arrogance knows no bounds. He mocks our heroes, particularly Theo, with a sinister laugh. It's clear that he sees them as mere pawns in his grand plan. The Lich, still hindered by his incomplete body, acknowledges the uniqueness of Theo's power. However, he belittles him as a mere fourth-circle magician. It's a condescending tone that underestimates Theo's true potential. And then, in a flash, Theo disappears. It's a shocking turn of events, leaving Sylvia and Randolph in a state of disbelief. What just happened? Where did Theo go? We see our heroes surrounded, and the sinister necromancer is taunting them. "Employer!" shouts Randolph, but Theo seems to have been transported somewhere mysterious. What's going on here? Elder Lich's words drip with malevolence, as he talks about choosing death over life the moment they step inside the cave. But wait, there's more. The necromancer speaks of a slave consumed by darkness, hinting at a dark past or a hidden power. And then, a cryptic call to wake up from a long dream. Can Sylvia and Randolph stand against the overwhelming force of the undead army? The atmosphere is filled with dark energy. The necromancer's power is on full display. He summons a powerful undead. It seems there's a revelation in the works. Elder Lich's words hint at a connection, a similarity to Randolph's swordsmanship. Randolph means business, and he's not here for any nonsense. "Shut that mouth. Enough with the nonsense, and bring it on," he declares. The intensity in his words is enough to send shivers down your spine. Randolph vows to tear them into pieces. Elder Lich comments on a connection between Randolph and the undead. But can Randolph defeat someone who is called a sword master at his current level? "I don't care," retorts Randolph, ready to face the challenge head-on. The necromancer muses about the audacity of humans, challenging forces beyond their comprehension. The necromancer's words are laden with foreboding as he senses something within the host. The undead sword master has a strong feeling of inferiority towards Sylvia, the favorite student of the Blue Tower Master, Blundell. Sylvia is puzzled by this revelation. Elder Lich shares with Sylvia a key piece of the puzzle. The body that he took over to be his host is the same body of the Blue Tower magician Giovanni. The same magician they were sent to look for. Sylvia, determined and resolute, faces off against the Elder Lich with unyielding determination. "I don't know what you're talking about, but I'll defeat you," she declares. The energy in this battle is absolutely electric. Every swing, every clash, every movement is brought to life. You can practically feel the impact of each blow as the battle rages on. The stakes are high as Randolph fights not only for himself, but also to reclaim his lost comrade. Randolph's facing off against a truly formidable adversary. This opponent isn't just any run-of-the-mill undead. He's got skills and defenses that are next level. It's going to take some serious strategy to outsmart him. And then, a name is dropped: Clovis. The crest on the sword ties Randolph's opponent to a family of significant importance within the Andres Empire. It's a dynasty that was once among the top echelons, but something catastrophic happened. The details are still shrouded in mystery, as the battle between Randolph and the undead ancestor rages on. The stakes are high. The backstory of the Clovis family adds another layer to the conflict. It all started with an imperial order that shattered their lives, leading to a boy's disappearance. The echoes of the past are hauntingly present in this pivotal moment. The revelation hits hard. Randolph realizes that what he's been seeking has been right in front of him the whole time. And then, we get a glimpse into the sheer power of the undead. Unlike humans, they don't have limits. The stamina and strength they possess are otherworldly, especially if they were formidable warriors in their past lives. It's an uphill battle for Randolph, to say the least. And just when you think Randolph's got the upper hand, a shocking twist. He believes he's dealt a decisive blow, but the undead ancestor proves to be even more formidable than anticipated. Randolph's face contorted with frustration as he swung his sword, trying to land a blow on the resurrecting undead. But it seems like he just won't stay down. The undead keeps attacking, as relentless as ever. Randolph's mind races, searching for a strategy. He knows he's fighting a relic of the past, a spectral warrior from a century gone by. But that won't deter him. He's got a plan, and it hinges on finding and obliterating the source of this fiend's energy. Fearless Randolph taunts the undead, revealing a deeper history between them. This adversary isn't just any old undead. He's a ghostly vestige of Randolph's own lineage. The clash of steel, the searing aura, it's a symphony of chaos and skill. Randolph presses on, determined to end this once and for all. He knows he still has a chance if he can just find that crucial opening and strike at the heart of the problem. The undead, once a revered figure, now reduced to this grotesque form, emanates a stench of decay. It's a stark reminder of the passage of time and the twisted turns of fate. As Randolph pushes his limits, the fate of his comrades' lives hangs in the balance. Will Randolph find that vital weakness? Things take an unexpected turn as Randolph reveals a shocking truth. It seems the Imperial Order was nothing more than a ruse by the Andrus Empire to annihilate Randolph's family. Randolph, his voice dripping with a mixture of regret and resignation, acknowledges the cruel twist of fate that brought them to this point. He recognizes that he, too, was a pawn in a grander scheme. It's a moment of unexpected empathy amidst the chaos of battle. Randolph, though conflicted, seizes this opportunity. He leans in, promising to grant his foe a painless end. It's a gesture of mercy. The undead, now in a state of somber reflection, offers a cryptic response. He encourages Randolph to do his worst, to give it his all. Randolph's resolve is unwavering. He readies himself for the final push. Every strike, every move, is calculated, fueled by a burning desire to bring an end to this nightmare. The clash of steel reverberates through the cave. The battle reaches a fever pitch, every movement precise, every strike with purpose. It's a fight for redemption, for justice, for the honor of Randolph's family. The cave trembles with the force of their battle. Randolph knows he can't afford to fall here, not when there's so much at stake. In the midst of this chaos, a glimmer of hope flickers within Randolph. He's not content to meet his end in this wretched cave. No, he's determined to return, to reclaim what was taken from him. As Randolph fights, memories of home flood his mind. The echoes of conversations, the creaking of familiar floorboards, it all comes rushing back. It's a stark reminder of what he's fighting for, what he's lost. A voice pierces through Randolph's thoughts, calling him Appa. It's a voice from the past, a connection to home and family. The weight of responsibility and choice hangs heavy in the air. Randolph's gaze softens as he looks upon the young face before him. It's a tender moment amidst the chaos, a reminder of the bonds that tie him to his family. In a touching flashback, we see Randolph's protective nature, and his love for his sibling evident. It's a glimpse into the tender moments that defined their relationship. Back to the present. With a final glance, Randolph rises, his purpose clear. He knows what he must do, the choice he must make. The fate of his family and his world hangs in the balance. Randolph, undeterred and resolute, pushes forward. His strikes are deliberate, each swing of his sword fueled by an unshakable determination to bring an end to this ancient evil. Randolph, with his grace and precision, moves like a dancer on the battlefield, his every step a strategic dance. He is the embodiment of a warrior's finesse, a force to be reckoned with. He's resolute and unyielding in his quest to reclaim what is rightfully his. With a burst of energy, Randolph rapidly diminishes the gap between them. He advances, his every step a calculated move bringing him nearer to his adversary. Now face to face, he parries the incoming onslaught. His sword teeters on the brink of shattering under the immense force of his opponent's attack. Yet, Randolph summons every ounce of his strength, propelling himself into an upward leap. With a swift and decisive motion, he lands the final blow directly into his opponent's chest. After a grueling battle, amidst the dust and exhaustion, Randolph stands tall victorious. He's proven himself, triumphing over a formidable foe. But the path ahead is still fraught with uncertainty. He collects his family heirloom while thanking his ancestors. Out of nowhere, Sylvia materializes. She engages in a fierce battle with Elderlicht, but she's on the losing end. The fight is intense, and the odds seem to be against her. Randolph and Elderlicht exchange a surprised glance. The fact that Randolph, a mere mercenary, has triumphed over his ancestor, a seasoned sword master, is nothing less than extraordinary. This unexpected turn of events leaves Elderlicht in a state of bewilderment. The scene shifts to Theo, who finds himself trapped in a dark dimension, unable to see a thing. There is no way out in sight. But hold on, it gets even more mysterious. Theo stumbles upon a colossal crystal pulsating with dark energy, nestled right at the core of this eerie dimension. It's like the beating heart of the entire dungeon, radiating power that practically makes your skin crawl. This is the phylactery of the Elder Lich. Now, a quick explanation for those not in the necromancy know-how. A phylactery is like a life insurance policy for a lich. If the body gets shredded, the soul hightails it back to this crystal and starts the whole rebuild the body process. And guess what? The Lich's magical heart? You're looking at it. Can you believe the audacity of this guy, placing his life vessel right at the heart of his lair? It's a bold move. Theo's eyes are locked on that crystal, the beating heart of the Elder Lich's dark magic. He's ready to give it everything he's got, summoning a fiery blaze shell to take it down. You can practically feel the heat of the battle. And here's the kicker: if Theo can shatter that life vessel, it's game over for the Elder Lich and his undead army. The stakes couldn't be higher, and you can bet Theo's all in, but things take a turn. It's a tough fight, and even with all his might, Theo's hitting a wall. That crystal, though small, is proving to be really tough. You see, a life vessel like that crystal can only be shattered by an aura as mighty as a sword master or the sheer power of a seventh circle mage. That's some next level stuff, and Theo, unfortunately, falls a bit short. Frustration pulses through Theo as he realizes that he's not equipped to take on this challenge. It's a gut-wrenching moment as he contemplates his options. Getting back to Randolph and Sylvia? Seems near impossible. He's lost in this otherworldly dimension with no bearings. And let's not forget, this place is more fragile than it looks. A reckless move could bring the whole ceiling down, but Theo's not one to back down. He's weighing his last-ditch effort, a move that could rival the prime power of Alfred, a true heavyweight in the magic game. It's a bold play, but there's no guarantee of success. Plus, Theo's running on fumes. His arm's not built for this level of mana. Performing a fully charged magic missile will surely blow up his arm. Still, it's his only shot. He's charging up, pouring every ounce of his being into this desperate move. You can practically feel the intensity crackling in the air, but then, a moment of hesitation. You can almost see the gears turning in Theo's head. Is this really the only way? Is there something he's missing? Theo's got a moment of clarity. He realizes that these undead minions are just puppets moved by magic. Take away the magic, and they're nothing more than lifeless husks. And guess what? Most of them don't have a single magical bone in their undead bodies. They're just empty shells, no power, no knowledge. Theo uses an appraisal spell. And what he finds is astonishing. This isn't just any old phylactery, no, it's Giovanni's life vessel, a sealing stone created through forbidden magic. Giovanni's soul is trapped within, tainted by dark forces. It's a contract that draws energy from the plane of negative energy, granting Giovanni a form of limited immortality. This thing's classified as a treasure rank, and it packs an immense power. Just one gulp and you've got 3 days of magical digestion ahead. And boy, is it worth it. It's like chugging a battery of raw magic power while sipping on a cocktail of Giovanni's dark arts knowledge. But here's where it gets even wilder. There's a mysterious warning: ingesting this thing might lead to some complicated relationships with an unknown entity. And just when you think you've seen it all, Theo takes the plunge. Gluttony has been waiting for that moment. He's consumed Giovanni's life vessel, absorbing a chunk of the Black Magician's twisted knowledge and skill. But hold on, because it's not done yet. There's a cryptic message about an entity taking an interest in our hero. Who could it be? What are their intentions? Randolph and Sylvia are in the fight of their lives, facing off against a malevolent force that's easily overpowering them. All they can do is to shield themselves from this unimaginable power. The corruption rate alone is off the charts. We're talking at least 5 circles level. The enemy's magic mastery is beyond impressive, summoning immense power with just a single verse. It's a sight to behold, but Sylvia's running on fumes. With only 30% of her magic power left, she's on the ropes. She knows she's outmatched, and desperation sets in. Just when things look grim, Sylvia summons Emer, the master of the bitter cold. There's a glimmer of hope as Emer makes an ice shield freezing the enemy, giving our heroes a fighting chance. It's a last-ditch effort, but there's no time to celebrate. The enemy's chilling warning hangs in the air. The ice, sustained by Sylvia's dwindling mana, is melting. It's a race against time, and the stakes couldn't be higher. As if that's not enough, Sylvia's mana hits its limit. Something's wrong, and it's happening fast. The situation goes from bad to worse. And just when it seems like all hope is lost, a silent, ominous presence emerges. But then, out of nowhere, there's a massive explosion. Something's happening, and it's not good news for our gang. The whole scene is a flurry of action as our heroes try to hold their ground. And then, suddenly a crack. The whole place starts shaking, and it's like the walls are closing in. It's chaos. Now the dungeon starts to crumble around them. You can almost feel the ground shaking beneath your feet. Will they make it out in time? Will they get back to safety? And just when you think things might be looking up, Theo's left wondering why the dungeon isn't reverting to its original form. He thought he'd taken care of the life vessel. Could there be another core lurking somewhere in the shadows? Things are taking an unexpected turn. An omnibus book is giving off a dark energy. The unexpected book is the grimoire. Yet, an intriguing development unfolds. Gluttony keenly observes the grimoire's audacious bid for escape through spatial manipulation. Without hesitation, he takes control, consuming the ancient text with an air of unwavering dominance. No one, especially not an inexperienced interloper, shall dare to disrespect his owner or tamper with forces beyond mortal reckoning. While consuming it, turns out this grimoire it's not your run-of-the-mill spellbook. It's got the spirit of the legendary black magician, Jerem, from ancient times, standing with the demons during the Great War. This guy wasn't just any old mage, he was a ninth circle necromancer. Now Theo's standing there. He could potentially absorb Jerem's power and become the sole ruler of the continent, but at what price? The guy's got the weight of 1,000 years of history on his shoulders. Ninth circle magic? That's no joke. Gluttony's got a suggestion. Lift the seal, raise your achievements, and maybe, just maybe, he'll have a shot at making this work. Is Theo really going to go through with this? Is he ready to roll the dice and potentially become the most powerful magician on the continent? Gluttony explains that he has a hidden function. Theo's got a shot at saving his hide, but it's a race against time. This grimoire, it's no joke. If they don't act fast, they're in for a world of trouble. Now, Gluttony's being a little cagey about the details. Gluttony warns Theo that in just 5 minutes, their foe will be back in action and ready to wreak havoc. But here's where things get really interesting. Gluttony talks about consuming the subspace pocket to unlock a hidden function that could be their saving grace. It's like an extra-dimensional storage space, and Theo's got one at his disposal. The possibilities are endless, but there's a catch. If they don't act fast, they could lose it all. Gluttony urges Theo to make a move. The tension is palpable as he consumes the subspace pocket. And the hidden function is revealed. It turns out, Gluttony has an inventory, a separate dimension where they can stash their loot. It's like having a supercharged storage space right at their fingertips. But this inventory is on a whole other level from the subspace pockets our heroes are used to. It's like a fortress that even grimoires can't escape from. After sealing the grimoire inside Gluttony's separate dimension, the separate dimension created by the grimoire starts to disappear and Theo is spied back to the cave. Sylvia's checking in on Theo, making sure he's in one piece. It's a truly touching reunion. They've got to keep moving because the whole cave is on the verge of collapsing. There's no time for rest just yet. The clock is ticking, and the whole place is coming down around them. It's a race against time, and our heroes are on the move. Theo, Gluttony, and the gang are making their daring escape, but it's not going to be easy. Meanwhile, Theo's comments on Randolph getting his hands on his family heirloom. He's taken a beating for this thing, and you can see it in his face. But they have no time for idle chat now since they have to escape this cave before it collapses on top of them. The gang's giving it everything they've got, dashing through the crumbling cavern like there's no tomorrow. They're so close, but the danger is still very real. In the nick of time, they manage to escape. Sometime later, a hearty dose of laughter is echoing through the air. It seems like our heroes are in high spirits after their epic victory over the Elder Lich. But hold on, something's amiss. Our main man, Theo, looks a bit downcast despite the celebration. Could it be that he's sensing something more ominous on the horizon? And then, who do we have here but Randolph, our trusty comrade, making a triumphant return with his long-lost family heirloom. The glint in his eyes tells us that this is more than just a shiny sword. It's a piece of his history, a legacy reclaimed. There's a playful banter between our heroes about titles and overtime, and a sly comment about that hard-earned gold. You know how it is, right? But Theo's not one to back down, especially when it comes to business. Randolph suggests a whole new career path for Theo, one that involves less magic and more merchanting. And what's this? The family heirloom looks different. Theo's keen eye spots the changes, and it turns out, the blade's not the only thing that's been upgraded. With a gentle tone, Randolph advises Theo. It's not fair to leave such a radiant young lady like Sylvia unattended. He watches as Sylvia is overwhelmed with inquiries about her potential marriage to Theo. The air fills with whispers and speculations about their relationship, causing Theo to blush. It's a bit awkward for him, but he tries to steer the conversation in a different direction while clarifying their relationship status. Randolph, observing the situation, remarks with a hint of relief in his voice. It seems Theo has finally returned to his old self. The room erupts in laughter and cheer, the atmosphere light and celebratory. It's a heartwarming scene. In the shadowy corners of Melter, a figure draped in a white cloak strides purposefully. He approaches a door and knocks. The door creaks open. The man in the white cloak reveals his astonishment. So, the elusive Red Tower Master has summoned me. Why have you called upon me? He inquired, his voice echoing in the silence. The Red Tower Master, known as Miss Veronica, responds with an air of urgency. It's about the Elder Lich incident. The same incident resolved by the winner of the pupil tournament? He probes. She acknowledges his quick gathering of information with a nod. He then informs her, Theo already has a prior engagement. I'm afraid there's nothing I can do about it. Intrigued, she asks about Theo's appointment. The man in the white cloak guards the secret closely, questioning if her demand is an order or merely a fit of curiosity. If it's an order, would you be upset? She teases. He chuckles lightly. How could I be? I was merely jesting. He then reveals that Theo's appointment is with His Majesty and asks if she still wishes to see him. Of course, she replies, her interest piqued. In a realm far removed from the familiar, two figures descend a seemingly endless staircase, swallowed by darkness. The man burdened with a backpack questions. Are we in the right place? The man wielding a torch reassures him. This can't be wrong. The detection stone senses something in this basement. The man with the backpack feels the oppressive weight of curses in the air and asks, Are you sure there's treasure hidden amidst this malevolence? The torchbearer nods affirmatively, his face illuminated by the flickering flame. Suddenly, he halts, his gaze fixed on something unseen. The man with the backpack urges him to respond, but the torchbearer is paralyzed with fear. Without warning, the ceiling crumbles, and monstrous entities plunge down, shaking the very foundation of the place. Is that the treasure? The man with the backpack stammers. No, replies the torchbearer, his voice trembling. We've been deceived. The monstrous entity seizes them, its voice booming through the cavernous space. Worthless humans! It devours them amidst their desperate pleas for salvation. Afterward, it growls ominously. I'm still hungry. I need to consume someone stronger to be satisfied. If you're as hooked as I am, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more recaps. And don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments below. Stay tuned for Season 2. Until next time, stay safe and keep those pages turning.